what's the
Start. All right, I'm recording. Welcome to the Elder Nerds, episode 9. Someday I'll add an intro the way Patrick wants me to. You know, for someone who wasn't really into it in the beginning, Pat seems to have taken over. Like, oh, you got to add this and this and this to the YouTube thing, and it's like,
no, don't get it mistaken. I'm still not into it.
It's just here every week.
Exactly. Well, it's episode 9. Holy fuck. We've done this since fucking mid-February. Jesus. And,
wow, well, don't jinx it.
Yeah, exactly. And so tonight we're going to... Mike will be joining us later. And tonight we'll be talking about... I'm letting Patrick take over hosting tonight. I'm going to liquor myself up. I'm going to liquor myself up on vodka tonics. So,
Nice.
Pat, why don't you tell Pete what the subject is tonight, and we'll get started.
First of all, you should be on your third vodka and tonic before you even start this thing.
Second, no, but they're pints. They're pints. They're pints. So I'm on my second one. All right.
Oh, very happy.
I had a rough week at work. All right.
All right, shut up, bro. Be quiet, let me.
You guys and everybody who's listening is there too much pop culture? You know, like. I noticed it like just the past few weeks. It was like every week another movie comes out and knocks off the contender, or you know they're the king of the hill. Then too much TV. Everybody keeps asking me, "Have you seen this? Have you seen that? Have you seen that? Have you seen that?" If we just go by geek things, next year on the CW there will be 5 superhero shows.
Which one? Which is Supergirl, Flash, Legends, Arrow,
Green Arrow, and Black Lightning.
So I thought Black Lightning was going to Fox.
Nope. CW.
No? Oh, well, now I feel better about it.
And don't forget about iZombie. That's a Vertigo book. It's not superheroes.
Right. iZombie's already on there.
Oh, I love iZombie. It just started this week. I love iZombie. I never saw Veronica Mars.
I remember the president of CW when they had Flash springboard successfully off of Arrow. He made some sort of statement saying, don't worry, the CW is not going to become the DC network. Oh, so much for that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's different. But even then, you think, okay, so now, have you looked at what comes out every week, comic-wise, on Midtown Comics? Every week, I have to look up what came out so I can remind the people who have my full box what should go in there. And I cannot believe the number of comics that come out every freaking week.
I know.
Really?
Like, and if you just look at Marvel. Just look at how many books Marvel is averaging like 40 to 50 books a week.
Well, that's why they still have the lion's share of the sales, right? Because they flood the market with shit.
Exactly. I don't know. Well, DC's been kicking their butt on the top. I don't know overall. But I mean, then
Rebirth.
Right. And then we have streaming services. So right now we have 3 major ones. We have Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu, and there are more trying to get into it. Paramount wants to start their one with Star Trek Discovery, and if they, you got to think every other media company is going to look to start their own streaming service.
Yeah.
And then Netflix, think about all the shows on Netflix, the scripted dramas, the original scripted dramas they do on Netflix, and the original scripted dramas they do on Prime. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but you know what? It's not really, I don't really see it as a big deal because this is streaming. You can watch this stuff whenever you want. You're not beholden to a television network schedule anymore. So you can just binge on a weekend or a vacation or whenever you find, or at night. Like I only watch TV at night and I keep up with just about everything.
Oh, and, really? You don't watch TV during the day when you're working? I thought you had it on in the background.
No, the closest. Well, I do. I'll have multiple tabs open. Like I'll have Photoshop open, but I really can't Photoshop a Netflix because Netflix draws a lot of bandwidth, and that makes Photoshop slow down.
Oh,
so what I do is I run YouTube videos because they use far less bandwidth, and I don't have to watch them. I'll stream old Stern Show episodes, or I'll stream the Nerdist. Or once in a while, Joe Rogan, or if I'm in the mood, and I want to hear stand-up, I'll just type in like Bill Burr or Louis C.K. or whoever, and just let the YouTube auto feature just keep playing clips while I work in Photoshop. Because, if I have Photoshop set to hog up as much memory as possible.
There's another thing. 2 things. You got YouTube. How many videos are there on? Like, think about all the stuff that's on YouTube and podcasts. There are tens of thousands of podcasts that you just cannot follow them all.
No, there's no. But then you can't. Why would you want to? Because not every podcast is going to appeal to you anyway.
No, obviously, but I mean, it's just like all of a sudden we're just swamped with all this information, and most of it is, a lot of it is pop culture.
Yeah, even if you consider comedy, like Pete said with Louis C.K., his new special just dropped Tuesday.
Oh, it was great. Yeah.
You see, and I didn't even have a chance to watch it yet. I mean,
and what's his name? Dave Chappelle dropped 2 at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those were also amazing. I actually think that Dave's brand new stand, because one of them was a little older. I think the one in Texas was just slightly older than the first one. But the first one I thought was even better than Louis' new stand-up. And Louis is always great. But there was something about, maybe it's because Dave's been away so long, that it had this extra, he just came back on fire, and he's so natural and smooth, and it's like he's just having a conversation with a couple of thousand people. You know, he's just like, he's just chilling, like he's at home just being funny. And he really brought it. He didn't lose any of his edge. Neither did Louis, but I don't know. I feel like Louis took a little while to get going, even though, like I said, his stand-up is great.
Louis got stand-up specials. He's got
and
that
TV shows,
that web show with Steve Buscemi, and he has Louis' show.
Right.
A lot of stuff going on for Louis.
Now, so getting back to your question,
did he produce something else? There's like a new female comic that's doing a show, and he's the producer on it.
He produces Baskets, which is Zach Galifianakis' show on FX or FXX, but I think he is producing something else too for a female lead. I think you're right.
Be surprised. The thing I admire about Louis is that Louis puts his money into stuff he believes in, so nobody else can interfere and fuck it up.
Exactly. He's an entrepreneur.
Like he took much less money from what's his show host on? Is it FX?
Yeah.
Louis.
He took creative control over financial gain when it came to his own show.
Exactly. He just seems to be the type of guy that, like, money is secondary to the craft with him.
Right. He was. I remember he was on Stern saying he's actually lost, a certain. He's really tapped into his funds because he insists on paying for his own stuff. Because if you get investors, then you're beholden to their whims and their suggestions.
Exactly. But to get back to what Pat's saying about is there too much pop culture? Maybe there's not enough. There's not too much pop culture for the rest of the world, but maybe there is too much pop culture for the pop culture nerds. You know what I'm saying?
For me, there isn't. For me, bring it. The more the merrier. I don't give a shit, because at some point it's going to all shift, and then we're going to miss it. So I'm just enjoying everything that I can enjoy with that isn't crap. Like I'm not watching like Gotham or that shit, but.
Now, when you mean shift, what do you mean by shift? Do you mean it's going to go away, or it's going to...
Yeah, sure. Of course it will. It's not going to stay around forever. I mean, trends change. They come and go with the wind. At one point, everything was a procedural cop show.
Those are still big. But you look at Westerns. Yeah. Westerns were on radio and TV for, like, practically 60 years. Cop procedurals have been big since the late 90s with the CSI stuff, and NCIS is still the number one show on TV. Here it is, 17 years.
And all the superhero stuff hasn't even hit 10 years yet, right, on TV?
If you start at Iron Man... Iron Man 1 was, 2008? You could really say that's really the barometer.
You know what? That was the birth of Marvel's hot streak, where you figure the successful comic book movies probably started with Spider-Man or the X-Men. Probably the X-Men.
X-Men, which was 2000.
Right.
But I don't think it exploded until the success of Iron Man. Because Iron Man showed that you could take a second-tier character, and if done right, could be a success. And I think that just opened up the floodgates to, like, you could present more things. Not everything had to be top. Not everything had to be top tier. Everything you could do a second tier character. Well done.
Remember in the 80s, everything was a horror movie. There was Michael, there was Jason, there was Freddy Krueger, there was this, that, and the other, and then that rode hard for a while, and that gave way to, I don't know, the action movies, and Die Hard or whatever, and then that rolled for a while, and then space movies came and went, with aliens and things like that. So is it too much? Personally, I don't think so. I think we just enjoy it while it lasts.
Well, it's probably going to last for at least until the end of Avengers 2,
Right.
or whatever, the Thanos Part 2 saga, which is, 2020, 2022 is the final part, I think?
Yeah.
Right.
I think the success of the Marvel movies is really what really is like the leader in all this pop culture.
It's got to.
More than anything, because
I think when Doctor Who hit big in 2005, I felt a big shift.
Really? Oh, that's wow. I didn't, because I figured Doctor Who was a show that had been off the air for a long time. It was only well known for guys like us. I think
it was. I mean, it was a big shift for Whovians, but it was.
I didn't think the regular. Yeah, I didn't think that the regular general populace hadn't known it.
Just knock Doctor Who for the next 30 seconds. The original show in America. Tell what it's like in America.
The original show until '89 in America was more of a cult show. It was on PBS.
Right.
Channel 13, Channel 50, New Jersey, Channel 21, Long Island. It wasn't a real. It was more of a cult following. Then it went off the air until the TV movie, till '96, and then that was off the air till 2005. I mean, like Pete said, I think when Doctor Who returned, it was much more for Whovians, old school guys like us.
It was a resurgence for that character for sure.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a worldwide phenomenon.
Like Whovians, it would be off the air right now. But it found a whole new audience, a whole new mainstream audience. It was they sped up the they used to show it in Britain in the fall and then show it in America in the spring, in the late winter, spring. But they couldn't do that anymore because America was watching it online, so they had to speed that up and do it same day. It really changed a lot of how pop culture is consumed. That was supposed to rise to the internet, and now we're not watching.
I don't know. I still don't know that it was spearheaded the rise of geek culture.
It was one thing it did.
I can see
female fans of Doctor Who was a complete surprise. Opened up a whole new audience.
Yeah.
When did the Wii? Does anybody know when the Wii came out, or do I have to Google that?
The Wii, the video game? Wasn't that the early 2000s?
I forgot to mention video games. Right.
Well, that's why I asked, because the Wii is credited with bringing women into the video game industry, into the video game market.
I don't know if they lasted that long.
Well, it didn't last that long, but that's the console that opened the doors of the video game world to women.
Yeah, with the sports activities.
That was 2006.
Right.
November 2000. Now, the Wii did fizzle out really quickly, but when it came out, it exploded and explosive because of
the Wii. The Wii was 2006. I thought it was a hell of a lot earlier. Fuck.
Yeah. No, according to Google, November 19th, 2006.
And Eccleston's Doctor Who started in 2005? Wow, I thought the Wii came before Doctor Who.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I asked, because you said that Doctor Who brought in a large female audience.
Its audience, I think, in Britain was a little different. It was sort of a weird family show on Saturday nights. But in America, as Gary said, it was like a PBS show that was at weird times. And really paid attention to it. And all of a sudden now, boom. And, it was probably, the people I see, the old term geeks in Britain were guys too. But now, all of a sudden, boom. Especially when Tennant got on it. Opened up a whole
that's what I was just going to say. I think Eccleston opened the door, but Tennant made it the worldwide phenomenon.
Tennant just blew the doors off.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see your point, Pat, with what you're saying. Yeah.
Then Sherlock, the success of Sherlock, and that opened up a whole other thing. And all of a sudden, you started seeing women at comic conventions, seeing girls at comic conventions. And then, the Avengers, boom, everything.
Right, of Iron Man, and then the Marvel movies.
But even that went from that was like BBC's #1 show worldwide, Doctor Who, for years. And then it was like, okay, what other geek shows we can do?
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see your point that it did open up a door to more of a worldwide phenomenon, which maybe got people more interested in other things.
Think about it. Were you guys watching it before it came on TV, or were you looking for it on the web?
Doctor Who?
I didn't watch Doctor Who at all until Eccleston. I had seen old episodes here and there because my friend
Jake. About the new episodes, the new show.
Yeah.
I was watching it on the web for a long time.
Yeah, I found it online. I forget, there was a site I used to go to that was amazingly well organized, and I would catch it as soon as right after it finished airing in England.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching it on old episodes too, and then Eccleston came on. But I agree with you, Pat, about bringing in women during the Tennant era really opened the doors to a worldwide phenomenon.
They were there for Eccleston, but they really came for that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Smallville predates Doctor Who by about 4 years, and that brought women. That started in 2001.
The WB, the CW, that's a young.
Yeah, there's then you had 24, you had Lost. And I'm just looking at the genre stuff because
Lost was very huge. Lost was really a big phenomenon.
Lost had a monster female audience because Abrams used his style, the style he developed from working on soap operas.
I want to go back to for 1 second. That changed sort of the way people consume now. Now the producers of the show would be like Sci-Fi Channel had the American rights, and they're like, wait a second, part of our audience has already seen it on the web. We got to do something. You got to give us to the same day.
Yeah, and that led to the BBC showing
Sherlock, same day.
BBC America showing it the same day as the BBC did. Yeah, but even like Pete said with Lost, I remember Lost and Battlestar Galactica were very big properties.
And those are from that era as well. So
because again, people were talking about it the next day at work. People were not quite binge watching it yet, but like me, I kind of binge watched Lost because I didn't come into Lost until the 5th season, and I binge watched the first 4 seasons over the summer, like one a day, just to catch up because everybody kept talking about it.
YouTube. By the way, YouTube was created in 2005. Since we're talking about 2005.
Yeah. YouTube was created in 2005.
They took a big risk. Everybody said, "What are you nuts? Mail order?" Because their sites were always on streaming right from day one. But they wanted their name to be around there before the technology got there, so they had the first one in the door. It was a huge risk that paid massively off.
Yeah, and then Google.
Netflix predates them all. Netflix started in '97. Because I remember using it when it first came out, and you only heard about it. Yeah, you only heard about it through email ads. There was no advertising except for these weird email ads that you would get.
I remember being in school, and my physics partner, he was a computer tech, he was a computer thing major.
Yeah.
And he was explaining to me, what do you call it? But basically, how we could all access the same movie and start it everyone. Multitasking, multi-purpose, right? And he said, once that gets in, forget it. The internet's going to change. He was right.
Yeah. Yeah, and Pete, you're right, too, because I remember Netflix went to Blockbuster first and said, hey, this is all right. Would you like to buy us out and come in on an idea of what we want to do? And Blockbuster was like, fuck you.
Blockbuster got really too full of themselves, and they really fell from grace quickly.
Yeah, because you know what's funny? I was working at an advertising company, and we had the Blockbuster account, and just every year, and it's funny, just every year, everything just kept decreasing, like the number of ads, the number of stores. Like every day, we just kept reading about how Blockbuster is failing and falling, and just holy shit.
I don't know if I'm right, but for me, what turned me off, I mean, I used to go to Blockbuster religiously. It was a couple of blocks away. Like every Friday without fail, go and cruise the aisle to see if I could find something to watch that hadn't been taken out already, because they only had a few copies of whatever was available. And when I came across an article talking about how they started editing movies that they felt needed to be sanitized for
Yeah.
family consumption. That pissed me off, and I stopped using them. And shortly after, I heard about Netflix and never went back to Blockbuster. I was like, fuck them. Like they were editing like rated R movies and PG-13 movies to make it more family friendly, to create that whole family friendly environment. I was just like, oh, screw them.
Yeah, oh yeah, I knew that working for them, that they did that. But do you think more than movies and comics, it's really TV that really created the age of pop culture? Because when you look at, people have been saying for the last 20 years, the golden age of television, because TV got a lot better in the last 20 years. You had Sex and the City, you had Sopranos, you had 6 Feet Under, you had Oz, and that kind of like, that quality of TV, I guess you could include it in pop culture. I mean, pop culture is just not superheroes and sci-fi. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so I think it's really more of the
Hill Street Blues, NYPD Blues.
Yeah, that was good quality network TV. But then when cable had its ascension in the 90s, Sex and the City...
HBO really set the world on fire when it had shows like Oz. And then,
Sex and the City. Sex and the City was a very
Sopranos.
big show because it covered a female point of view, which was really missing in a lot of TV. About women could go out.
I don't know about that.
Well, women. Well, come on. They were successful women. Women went out and fucked just for the sake of fucking. One night stands. No.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I read an article a long, long time ago, probably in the 90s, that said when it comes, it's probably early 2000s. When it comes to TV, men watch sports, women watch shows.
Right.
And that's how advertising this thing.
Oh, exactly. And then, like I said, Sex and the City was a huge hit.
Of TV, I felt like the really good scripted dramas migrated off of network TV onto cable.
Yes, because you were allowed a lot more freedom on cable, definitely. I mean,
but even then, I don't think they were willing to do it. They wouldn't do a Hill Street Blues, an LA Law, or an NYPD Blue anymore. They just didn't do it. I don't know why.
Because I think the people that grew up either watching or working on those shows, they knew that they didn't want to deal with network TV, so they knew cable was their new outlet, maybe, and they could do a lot more mature stuff. Because no matter what, network TV to this day still is dictated by ads. You still have to listen to your advertisers.
Yep.
And while
still
cable
have standards and practices,
well, you don't have that on cable, and so these guys that worked on Hill Street Blues or Homicide, they were like, they got away with a lot, but then they were like, wait, we could push the envelope even more on cable. That's
by the
what
way, talking about standards and practices. I was watching some show. What the hell was it? But then somebody called the other guy, some other character, Dick, right on 10 o'clock. I was like, what?
Oh yeah. The last. It was like the last 7 years.
They've been calling each other. People have been calling each other dicks on Supernatural for years.
No, but I think the last 10 years, the FCC lightened up on rules. If you notice, rules at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'm sorry, Gary. One of the shows credited with pushing the language barrier was Dynasty.
Really?
Dynasty, yes, I never really... They called everybody a bitch. I didn't think that was such a big deal.
But it had never been done before. So just getting away with them being able to call each other bitch on Dynasty was a big deal at that time.
I thought Dallas... I guess Dallas and Dynasty... Dallas and Dynasty.
At the time, it was never done. You gotta
really? I thought Dallas did it earlier. I always thought
Dynasty's credited with that, almost guaranteed. I remember them making a big deal out of it on the entertainment shows and on the news. Just the fact that if Joan Collins or
Linda Evans.
Linda Evans,
Linda Evans? Yeah, one of them called the other one. They were always fighting and throw each other into pools and all kinds of shit. One called the other a bitch. And I mean, that was like the biggest controversy on television at that time. What was that? The early '80s, mid '80s, or something.
Mid '80s, yeah.
So Dynasty.
Wait, when was the last time you heard about Sweet?
It's irrelevant now.
Yeah.
It still goes on, but it's totally irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. But, ratings in general are irrelevant. Now the way they talk about TV is the show relevant? Meaning from primarily from the social media standpoint. Like, is it being talked about? Is it getting lots of likes, lots of hits? Web traffic, so on and so forth. because the ratings are they mean shit now.
They mean shit. They don't. They mean something now still, but it's a shifted type of demographic. While 5 years ago, a
Yeah.
show that reached 10 million people was considered a hit. Now it's like
Now you have
now a show that reaches 1 million people is considered a hit. It's just
the Flash. It's just like comics. Comics they used to sell 750,000 copies of a comic, and now if they sell 50, it's like a massive hit. So now you have like
But I mean,
on the
that goes
CW,
back.
The Flash is the highest rated show on the CW, and it only gets about 2.5 to 3 million people a week.
yeah,
Think about
exactly.
that. We go back to comics, right? It's diffused now, right? Like if we do a good job, we could probably find 5 web comics we all like,
Right.
and not pay another thing for DC or Marvel. But then you look at IDW and all those. There's a lot of good comics coming out. Image, like in terms of quality, we're just kicking people's butts for the past 5 years, 6 years.
About 10 years. Yeah, I would say.
And that was that was primarily due to the strength of Kirkman's work.
Yeah.
Because Kirkman, with Image, because Kirkman had Invincible and The Walking Dead.
Those are 10-year-old books.
They were monsters.
Yes.
They were monsters. Those books. They just blew people away.
I was looking at something and I saw Invincible sales, and I can't remember what they are, but I was like, wow, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
I fell off of that book too after a while. But for I would say at least 130 issues or so, between 130 or something like that.
I heard nothing but good things about that.
Yeah, it was a monster show.
Yeah, Mike,
Mike,
who's going to join us, he was a fan of Invincible from issue 1. And
me too.
He did a lot of reviews on it, and I think he wanted to do an index on it. And he's a big fan of it. But I noticed a lot of people dropped off after issue 75 when I had my store because it just got too gratuitous with the violence, and that turned off a lot of people.
Really? That thing was violent from it was a bloody mess every issue.
But that big space saga, that big space saga from issues like 70 to 75 was like, I knew so many people in my store that were just like, ugh. Like, I knew it was violent beforehand, but that they just said this was just too over the top and gratuitous, and they dropped it.
But yeah, let me ask you.
And now it's ending.
Those people are weak.
Yeah, it's ending. It's ending at issue 144 in a couple of months, I think, or a month or two. It's finally coming to an end, which I think is, maybe you should do the same with The Walking Dead. But what were you going to say, Pat?
Was my as when you had your store, when you were trying to decide what to order, was it ever like, holy shit, look at all this stuff?
Oh, hell yes. Looking through that Diamond catalog every month, which is like 400 fucking pages of comics, toys, statues, T-shirts,
books,
anything, any ephemera, paraphernalia of anything related. I mean, I was for even a couple of girls in my store, I was ordering like life-size Doctor Who stand-up cardboard cutouts for them. It's like, just what the fuck? It's just like, there was just so much stuff, and
it's something that just occurred to me like a second ago. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea. But in regards to whether or not there's too much pop culture, I still don't think there is. I'm totally fine with the onslaught of it. But I feel like maybe it's a good thing because since there's so much competition out there, it forces the creators of new superhero shows, genre shows, or whatever to really bring their A game, and then we're just going to benefit from that competition because they're just going to create better and better shows. Like we have Black Mirror. Dimension 404 is a lot of fun, by the way. If you haven't seen that show yet, you should find it.
I read a review of it. It does sound interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's like Black Mirror if it had humor in it, and it wasn't so fucking good. It's really, and Mark Hamill narrates it. It's almost like an homage to like the kitschy era of like sci-fi and horror, but with a bit of modern flair to it. Patton Oswalt was on an episode. There was another guy from Scandal, a couple of other actors and actresses that you'll recognize. But we get these shows
And again,
that.
I never even heard of that show.
I didn't hear about it either. I found it by accident like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I just read a review about last week of it. But I think the question is, Pat, maybe the question isn't, is there too much pop culture? The question should be, is there an audience for all this pop culture?
Yeah,
because because like I said, like when I had my store and I was going through previews, you see like these little rinky-dink comic book companies putting out books that no one I knew either read them or ordered it. And then when you look at the Diamond 300, Diamond Top 400 list of books sold, you don't see these titles anywhere on the list. And the lowest selling book on the Diamond 300 is like 3,000 copies. So it's like, if you're not on the top 300, who are you selling to? Is there an audience for your book?
They're selling to people online through social media.
I guess, yeah, I agree with that, yeah, because Diamond is not just
it's
the
very similar to the record industry, because the music industry is primarily living off of singles, but the artists are making their real money off of touring.
Yeah.
And now online, there's a million bedroom artists using Pro Tools or whatever software they can get a copy of and creating their own thing and building their own little fan base online while never having a top 40 hit at all. And they have tens of thousands of followers, and they can get those people, if they work their Instagram and their Twitter right, they can get those people coming out to the clubs and make a little living for themselves.
Yeah, that's true. That is totally true.
Something Pete said.
Uh-huh.
And when you said this is, makes everybody bring their A game and all these new things, but I always feel like, is it more like an expansion team? Like if you expand too much in pro sport, then you're going to water down your talent.
Yeah, that too. And also, you get a lot more crap now than in the past.
Right.
That's always been. I mean, that goes with any sweeping genre change. If it's all cop shows, some of those cop shows are going to suck. Not everything's going to be The Shield.
Yeah.
Not everything is going to be Hill Street Blues. Not everything is going to be, I don't know, House or Law and Order or whatever the fuck.
But now there seems to be, like, because of technology in TV and comics and printing and whatever. Yeah, in the old days, before the internet, something that was crap that was put out was quickly gone. But nowadays, I think you could have crap around a lot longer because of technology.
And it can find its own. You know what it is now?
Until it finds its own, or it really doesn't. So instead of one issue of crap or one episode of crap, you'll now get a dozen episodes of crap before people give up the ghost. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot more crap out there.
So much to choose, but there's so much to choose from. Back in the day when we were limited to channels 2 through 13, you would end up watching whatever genre show you could find just because it was the only thing of that particular, like Star Trek. I used to watch Star Trek Next Generation because at the time it was the only sci-fi I could find. But then when Babylon 5 showed up, I dropped that shit like a hot potato and went to Babylon 5.
Right, and you also had the other Star Trek spin-offs. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like we were limited then to just, basically we had to accept whatever bones the major networks threw our way. Now, if you're talking about pop culture is based on the populace. It's based on the people. And the internet has leveled the playing field so that we're not beholden to what the corporations think we want to see. It's open now anybody that has an idea and has a little know-how and can get a little team together can put something out there that could be amazing or it could be complete garbage.
Right, I agree. But is it still beholden? But hold on a sec. Is it still beholden to the worldwide audience, or is it still beholden to the nerds and geeks who will write, blog, and podcast about it? Like if the nerds and geeks are doing their job right and not just being biased and really trying to get geek shows, popular, a wider audience, then they're putting the word out and they'll get people who aren't into that stuff into it. But they're also perpetuating crap. But Pete, that's true.
Well, he's doing a good job.
Yeah, exactly. But Pete, they also perpetuate crap as well.
But everything that goes with anything,
That is true.
That goes with any
But
that goes with music. It goes with film. It goes with novels. It goes with clothing.
But what I'm saying is that, like, do you think it's really like the worldwide audience that are keeping things afloat, or is it just like the vocal few in the nerd pop culture community because of the way they know how to use technology to keep things afloat, when in the past things would have gone by the wayside?
I off the top of my head, I would say that it's the more tech savvy, internet savvy culture that's keeping shows alive because they know how to start those online campaigns. They're very vocal. They go to the conventions, like Firefly. The only reason Firefly got Serenity was because of the fans. Family Guy.
And then they sold 300,000 tickets and went away.
Yeah, but I mean, the show was made literally as a love letter to the fans. Like, the only reason Josh did it was because the fans caused such a stir that he was able to get get a budget to get that.
So the Serenity movie is not pop culture for the masses. It's pop culture for the few.
That's a niche. Yeah, that's for the brown coats. That's for us.
I want to bring up two things. One, talking about the geeks propagating thing. If you look like on a lot of YouTube, things. Remember, like Entertainment Tonight and all those crappy shows that told you about what's coming up.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of the YouTubers kind of go for that format. Even like they give you an intro and all that. I want to hear that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see you gush about something. Just tell me the truth. Speak your language. There are some shows, and some of them are pretty big on YouTube.
Yeah.
That are like that.
Well, they're auditioning to have their own shows to do that for a living, and they're trying to be as professional as they can be.
I think they're trying to get the attention of some network so they can get hired, or a cable channel to get hired.
Yeah. I totally agree with it. Maybe not a network or a cable channel, but some sort of media conglomerate that they could work for in some capacity.
I kind of got that feeling too, Gav.
Yeah, like the Dissolve, the way the Red Letter Media guys make fun of the Dissolve. If you watch their past few videos this week, the Dissolve is this. Sounds like it's this Star Wars fanboy web series that just oozes over anything Star Wars and just praises it, no matter how bad it is. And I think that you can tell that there are certain people pandering to the media conglomerates, which is fine. If you want to do that for a living, fine. Go right ahead.
Remember when Geeks got big and they were like, what's his name, G4 was still on, and they would have like kind of shows like that, and they would put a pretty girl up there, and she starts walking, and she never watches everything.
Actually, hold on a second. I gotta jump in the middle of that one.
That's funny. People say that about Olivia Munn over the years, that she was never really a fangirl. She just did it.
No, but she is.
Like I said, Gary, like she was game for every stupid thing they wanted to do on that show. I thought she was terrific on that show.
Me too. I mean, I thought she was pretty honest because, hey, she wrote an autobiography where she, about, how she's not Wonder Woman. I don't think as someone who panders to the fanboy audience would write a book using Wonder Woman in the title of your book. I think she was very honest.
Besides Olivia Munn, who were the other really attractive women that were well known on G4? Because there's one of them.
Well, not just attractive women in general that were being.
Well, G4, there was one in pop culture. Video game review, right? What was her name? She was big for a while, like a sex symbol kind of thing. What the hell?
Because there was one girl who was super attractive. She was a big time geek into video games, and she actually still is to this day.
You mean like the tall blonde, the Blair, or the light?
She's on podcasts all the time.
She used to do a show where the guy was kind of short and he had like balding blonde hair. They had a good show. They were like the number one video game review machine. My buddy Fred was in love with her. What the hell was her name?
Like Blair?
Yeah,
Blair something maybe?
Yes, maybe.
And then, but I mean, other than G4, but you could tell, like someone like Olivia Munn, to me, and those girls on G4, were really into their stuff. We're really into.
They were.
But sometimes you see a lot of people who just pander, like Pat said, they just put a pretty girl in front of a screen.
Fox News is guiltier of that than G4. Of using a pretty girl.
But I'm saying, like when that came in, that kind of made big. Like there's a couple of shows on YouTube that have like money behind it. You can see it. They actually have a set and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You get some like 23-year-old girl right out of college talking about how much she loves Rooster Gold, and you're full of shit.
Yeah, exactly. But there are some legitimate sites, like you said, on YouTube. And hey, if they want to do that for a living and be bought out by a media conglomerate and just talk about movies and comic books the rest of their lives and get paid for it, more power to them.
Listen,
I have no problem with that.
You have a flood of I think the ratio of female to male at the Comic Cons now has been tipped in the favor of women. Like, I believe there's more women than men at Comic Cons.
Yeah.
And not every cosplay girl is a diehard comic fan or video game fan. So, but they're into something. They're into some aspect of geek culture.
Yeah.
Some of them are just there to get jobs.
All right, I got two things to say. That one, think about all the comic conventions now. Think about there used to be like one or two big national ones, and there'd be the little ones where you go into New York or hotel and you'd be shoved in like a back room and it'd be sweaty.
You'd be in the Roosevelt.
Yeah, Roosevelt, yeah. And they may have one in Jersey and like some hotel, motel, stuff like that.
Yeah, those suck.
Every city now has a huge convention, the biggest convention hall going, and they have major stars at it. It's unbelievable. Yeah. If you're like one of the cast of Firefly, you can make a good living. Just go hopping from convention to convention.
Yeah.
If you have the money, you can go to a con every month in this state.
And like what Pat said, in the olden days, it was only like the major cities that had a con, like New York, Chicago, L.A., San Diego. But like Pat said, nowadays it's like you have all these secondary cities like Phoenix and Austin and Charlotte.
Wizard World, I saw in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
And Tulsa, yeah.
Oklahoma. And I drove through Oklahoma. Nobody's there.
Yeah, exactly. And then you read these attendance figures and you're like, where the fuck are all these people coming from that weren't here years ago? It's funny because I was just doing.
Conventions exist because there's so much geek/pop culture available. There's all these new fan bases have developed, so the conventions can sustain themselves. Because if you're not just a comic fan, you could be a fan of Supernatural. You could be a fan of The Flash. You could be a fan of My Little Pony or Attack on Titan, or just anime in general.
Absolutely,
Yeah, you could be a fan of one thing.
Maybe it was Wizard that said, somebody got smart and said, we're going to keep it all in. And San Diego said, well, we're going to do Twilight. But I was going to say something about the cosplayers. There are cosplayers that can give two shits about any of it, but they like the costume, and they're going to make the costume. And it's amazing, and I appreciate everything they do and every convention they hold up. And that's a great geek hobby no matter what.
Well, here's the thing. If you see someone, a good-looking girl that's a professional cosplayer, but let's say she only knows the character from looking at, like if she knows nothing about the character or reads the comic book or watches the TV show, but she dresses up as the character because she knows which way the wind blows and she sees images on Google. Do you consider that a person who's part of fandom, even though she may not read a book or watch a TV show? She just dresses up as the character to make money.
She's capitalizing on that particular type of person. Is just capitalizing on the popularity of the culture, which is going to happen again with anything, with any trend in pop.
But I think I see that a lot at cons. I think I see a lot of professional models that just dress up as the hot character du jour. It's work. But then you can't consider them part of fandom.
No.
So what does that make them in this pop culture field?
Let me get
They're opportunists. They're looking for work. They're just
that's what I'm wondering. Let me ask you a question.
That's what I.
You're saying these girls are getting dressed up in that costume just to go and get exposure and make some money?
Yes.
Or they're just people. These girls don't love cosplay, and they see a good costume and they know nothing about it, but they're like, hell, I'm going to wear that costume because it looks cool.
Either or. It's still the same thing. They're not immersed in the culture, but they're just doing it like Pete said. It's just in their opportunists. They're immersed. They're not immersed in the culture.
The first one or the second one?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like they may not love. They don't know anything about the character. They're just doing it as an opportunity to make money and to be exposed and to get exposure. So if they're not part of the culture, what do you consider them?
eye candy.
Okay, I
Listen,
can see that.
I'd rather see a bunch of hot
I mean,
chicks.
like, what's his name? Like the what's his name? She was on Survivor or something. She was a reality star, and then she came and she sort of I can't remember what she did. She like cosplayed something. She kind of got big, and then she lost the TV stuff, but she kept going to comic books. She did slave labor and all that stuff. What was her name? She married Peter Brady. Well, she was going out with Peter Brady. What's her name?
Adriana
Yes.
something.
Right. You don't think she's part of the culture, right?
No, I don't. I think she's just an opportunist.
She's still an opportunity.
Yeah.
I could see that, but I think she became part of the
but a lot of the
girl on T4 was Morgan Webb. That's the girl I was thinking.
That's it, Morgan Webb. Yeah,
she was on X-Play.
She was kind of creepy because she never blinked to me. When you look at her on TV, she always looked straight at the camera, and she looked like she never blinked, which...
But the cosplay girls that are going to conventions just to try and get hired by... Because I've met a couple of them, and they told me they found a niche. They either paid somebody or learned how to make their own costume. Because they found out that Marvel, if they were really good and really drew a crowd, Marvel and DC would start flying them around to different conventions to represent them. And also, the guys that have tables set up would get an attractive girl in a costume working for them to try and lure business over, because you got to do whatever the fuck you got to do to try and sell your stuff at Comic-Con.
But those are booth babes.
People walking around.
But those are booth babes. That's acceptable at a Comic-Con. Well, I'm saying like the cosplayers who just dress up like Black Widow but never read a Black Widow comic. I don't consider them part of the landscape.
I'd rather see them walking around than some fat fucking sweaty dude who smells, who's looking for
Gary, you can go to any convention he wants. Stop talking.
I knew Pat was going to say, but
I would rather see, because the
really, I'd rather have this fat, smelly guy who at least buys the ephemera that's related to pop culture than a model that's just going to stand there and show off her cleavage, who knows nothing about the culture.
If you're selling stuff, I can understand that, but I usually go as a patron, as a fan, so I'd rather see the hot chick than the fat dude.
But you can find hot chicks on the net. You can find hot chicks.
Gary, you're gonna have to point that out to me, because I'm not really.
But you can find hot chicks on the net all the time. They're not helping the culture in general.
They never swipe right, Gary. Come on.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like they're there as a hired monkey. I mean, it's just.
Well, they're very pretty monkeys.
Oh, big deal! Like I said,
if they're hired there just to dress up as that character, I don't mind. That's not their fault. That's whoever hired them.
That doesn't faze me. I could give a shit if they're into it. Great. If they're not, they're not. Who cares?
But see, to me, it's just like that's then they're just taking up space from someone who may really be into the culture.
You're saying like let's say Xenoscope, because they have all those sexy girl fairy tale books. If they hired like 3 models to dress up as Little Bo Peep or whoever, you don't like that guy?
No. That's a booth babe. They're at the booths selling, trying to get people into the booth to buy the product. That's totally different than just a girl who goes to a con dressed up as slutty Scarlet Witch to just have photos taken of her and sell her photos.
If you're concerned with the business aspect, that girl still had to pay to get in, so the money goes to the convention, so she's contributing to the overall business of the con. And she's gonna more than likely buy something. There's no
actually, that is... Whoa, Pete, that is not true. Of all the retailers I talk to and all the retailers online, a lot of cosplayers do not buy anything at cons because they're busy posing for photos. They're busy changing into outfits. They do not buy anything from retailers.
Well, see, you were a retailer and you've worked tables at the con, so you have...
I've been a retailer, I've been a civilian, I've been a promoter, I've been all that at cons. I've been on every side of the table.
You have retailer rage. We go as fans, so to us it's just like, hey, cool, there's pretty girls around. And you guys don't like it because those girls are not buying anything and they're creating, they're adding to a culture, the cosplay culture, with people that don't buy stuff.
But how are they contributing? By just standing there and having fanboys take photos of them? like I said, you can find pretty girls online for free 24/7. So they're not part of the culture.
They're not there in your face. They're not. They're adding to the atmosphere of it. I mean, clubs let women in for free.
Yep.
For a reason, not because they're fucking in love with women. They let women in for free because that brings in guys. So the conventions are doing the same shit. If the girls aren't buying, the 10 guys that followed her in the door, theoretically, are going to buy plenty of shit. So it makes up the difference.
I totally see your point, but I just don't think it contributes to the greater good in the long run. It
is if the guys are going to see hot chicks, the guys always buy stuff at Comic Cons, and there's also plenty of women who buy stuff because I see them when I go.
But they're buying stuff from the pretty girl. They're not buying stuff from anyone else. They're just buying stuff from the pretty girl who knows nothing about pop culture.
No, they're not buying anything from her. They
are. They're buying her photos. They're buying.
Oh, that's true. The cow, like some girl like Ivy Doon Kitty, like they're buying.
Yeah, exactly. That's a.
I was going to bring that up because I was friendly with this girl Jasmine Mai. She was a car show girl, and her manager Tony. For some reason, he and I clicked. And every time I would buy that table, it was the funnest table at the con. And they did small cons. They did the one at the Roosevelt. They did New Yorker. They did, like the little one. But they did New York Comic Con too. They would do it. I would run into them all the time, and they were just so much fun. It was like I don't know. But she would sell. They would sell like pictures, calendars, and all that. But another thing I want to say is, remember it was like when I started getting back into cons around 2000-ish. There was always like a girl there from like Playboy or the webcam, and all of a sudden, as time went on, those girls disappeared.
Oh, I know what you mean. They're still around at certain shows. The Playboy models and the wrestlers, and those. Yeah, there's an audience. I know. I can understand wrestling. I can understand wrestling, but I can't understand the ex-Playboy models signing autographs at shows. I mean.
Patrick mentioned the small cons, like back in the day, like in the 90s, or when there was a con once every blue moon. The Big Apple Comic Con,
Greenberg, Great Eastern Conventions, which I worked for, Carbonero shows.
So we did want to do the show in St. John's Church, the basement of St. John's Church.
That was Carbonero. That was after. That was after Great Eastern Conventions petered out because of. The Javits Center and other things. I worked for Great Eastern Convention.
Yeah, I remember those smaller cons, and that was when I stopped going to them because I hated them. They were all the same shit. The Star Trek cons, the Comic Cons, or whatever. It was just a sausage fest, and it was dirty and sweaty, and it stank, and and everything was covered in dust, and it just sucked. There was no fun, and when women started to enter comics and video games and the demographic of the conventions changed, they became a lot more fun. And it wasn't just staring at them. I mean, it was just the energy that the female audience brought to the conventions. It made the place exciting, and it just it caused there was other people to talk to besides these dudes who would just argue over, whether or not.
Hulk versus Thor. Hulk versus Thor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just like, shut the fuck up. It was like, you just get tired, 10, because, you had these conversations in high school. So it's like, you didn't want to keep having them in your 20s and 30s. It's like, just women bring a different dynamic, and then they're bringing a different dynamic to a genre that you love. And it's just fun. It's just, there's like an electricity that happens when you're talking to a bona fide geek girl. You know what I mean? It's just like, wow, because remember, geeks were considered, predominantly male losers. And then it's like, oh, wait, now there's female geeks. And then it's like, wow, this is cool. You know what I mean?
Remember, like, before the influx of women, but like the girl geeks, like Star Trek cons and all stuff, with the straight hair and the glasses and Angora sweaters. You could see it, you were like, yep, that's a geek girl.
Yeah. Well, they fell into a cliche sort of mode. You're right.
Like
very front. The guys were smelly and sweaty and gross, and the girls were frumpy.
Again, I'm gonna have to ask you, stop personal attacks with Gary.
Shut your pie hole.
But I'm having fun taking my side jabs like that.
But like, yeah, you're right. But I mean, like, think about all the cons, right? Say you know, how many cons can you go to a year now? They're so expensive and they're all over the place.
You could literally go to a dozen if you go to just one every month.
Yeah,
but
yeah. If you won the lottery, you could go. Yeah, yeah.
sure, but there are several every month in different states. So it's like you could, like I said, if you had the money, you could spend all year going to cons.
Yeah.
But see,
Oh
in that
fuck! You need a
regard,
lot of money to go to all these cons. There's tons of
you
cons.
would need tens of thousands to go, because I mean, forget about it. But see that. And here's an interesting twist in regards to the is there too much pop culture? I couldn't deal with going to a con every month, personally, because it's just it would be too much of the same shit.
Yes. Oh, that's a big problem with cons. I think too. That there's just same artists, same writers, same stars.
Yeah, it's not diverse enough. It's not diverse enough. I mean, they try and mix it up by bringing in anime or bringing in video games and having these weird little parties after the con closes. But yeah, it's too much. To me, it's like it's so much sensory overload. Once is enough for me. Once a year is great because then I always appreciate it.
Well, that sensory overload only affects you at cons. It doesn't affect you with other pop culture media.
You know why? Because you can turn the other pop culture off.
Another thing, movies, right? Movies. Gary and I plan to go see how many movies. We're missing movies as it goes on. I just feel like we're never going to catch up.
Yeah, we're just we're
some of
too
blockbuster
busy.
season used to start like the end of June.
Or the beginning of June.
July was the big weekend.
Memorial Day.
March.
Yeah,
it goes till September, and then it starts again in November, and it ends with whatever Star Wars movie comes out for Christmas.
Yeah, but you can go. I mean, there's no. I don't understand what the problem is because it's not like the shit is going to disappear if you don't get there in a certain period of time. You
I know. I'm just saying, it's like boom, 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 boom. And then you hear. I mean, I don't know about you, but have you heard? Oh man, if you're watching Legion, you gotta watch Legion. Oh. True Detective, you gotta watch True Detective. Or what's the one you just said? 704, whatever it was?
Dimension 404.
Dimension 404. How come we're not watching that? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then think about all the non-geek shows we watch. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I watch I watch the ABC sitcoms on Wednesday and, stuff like that.
It just feels like you don't get a chance to breathe. Like Pat was saying, we're behind. We were going to go see King Kong, and then we missed it, and now it's Ghost in the Shell, and now today's Friday, the 7th, and there's something else out today, and it's like, either you see it the first weekend, you either see it the first weekend, or you're playing catch up. They don't let you breathe.
I don't get it. Why do you feel so pressured?
I'm not saying that
not pressured.
You're not getting
it just feels like you're bombarded. No, not pressure. It just feels like you're bombarded.
But you're talking about movies like you're talking about homework.
No. I mean like Logan, right? You went to see Logan, right? And the next weekend it got knocked off the thing. But it's not like, say for a month, Logan's like the big thing, and you get to talk to people over the month about the thing, and you get to think about what went on, what were the themes, and sort of digest it. But now it's like, boom.
Yeah.
Okay, you got Thursday to Sunday. Enjoy.
Yeah, because by next Friday, something else is coming out that you have to consume. Not so much homework, but it just feels like you're bombarded.
Is that the same way with comics?
Yes.
Oh, big time with comics, yeah.
Especially with the event things, which kills me. You gotta get on this. You gotta read about this. You gotta read about the build up to Secret.
But you don't have. But you don't.
I know. But
you guys are letting other people pressure you into feeling like you have to catch up.
No. I'm not saying that. No, but I agree with you when you said homework on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. It's not so much being pressured, but it feels like a sense of you have to, if you don't watch a Marvel show on Netflix within the first weekend, people are going to spoil it for you online.
Yeah, I just ignore. I tell you, I don't.
Or people are going to talk to you about it. It feels like not quite. It's almost like homework, but it feels like a chore to go through Iron Fist in a weekend, or God forbid, even a day, because everybody is talking about it, spoiling it, revealing, like criticizing it, reviewing it online, and it just feels like, it's like you have to be almost like being, what's that saying? Catching up with the Joneses.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Keeping up with the Joneses. It just, it
but
just
keeping
feels
up with
like
the Joneses is more that speaks more to the people that are constantly running around trying to buy the latest thing. The Joneses are like the super family that always has the hottest TV, the hottest car, the biggest house, the newest clothes, and you're running around trying to keep up with them. That's not really. It's not necessarily the same thing with the geek stuff.
Really, I think it is.
Like, you guys know that
I think it
has a sequel out now.
Who does?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah, something like, was it 50 Shades Blacker?
It's a trilogy. It's a trilogy. There's 3 books, and the second movie just came out, and the third one will probably be out next year.
What's the third one called? The Blackest Black?
I have no idea. I just know that it's a trilogy. First one was such a big hit. She wrote 2 other books afterwards. But
that's the biggest selling book in England. It outsold Harry Potter.
Jesus Christ.
He said, I was reading an article how secondhand stores, like, they said they can't take anymore. For every book they sell, they get 7 more.
In England?
Wow.
Of what? The
in England. It's Shades of Grey.
Well, that's because they're sexually repressed. So that shit was a
They do like spankings over there, I'll say that.
Yeah, they do. But Pete, it's interesting.
I mean, you would think they would have some sort of literature, taste.
But I don't know. I don't feel the pressure that you guys feel with pop culture. I don't.
Well, it's weird, Pete. It's like you work out of your home.
Yeah.
In Long Island. I mean, you do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
With me, and here's mine. With me, it's because I owned a store, so everybody thinks I'm a fucking expert, and I'm watching everything under the sun.
I went in there. I said,
but you don't have the store anymore. So
no. But they still think I'm an expert because I had the store. So they still think I'm an authority. So every fucking day.
Dude, I didn't watch it yet.
Yeah, that's what I do. But it feels like it's almost like, even though I didn't watch it, it feels like you still have to be part of the conversation. So you have to find time to watch it.
No, that's you. I still feel like that's you letting yourself.
See, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like all of a sudden, there's just all these outlets, they're all coming at you for your attention. It's just like.
Yes. No, I agree with Pat. There is too many outlets.
It's called popular culture, Pete. It's the culture of the populace. And if you're not, like, I'm not swimming in that water, where am I in terms of that? I mean, I got it. Like, who cares?
You have to figure that out. I'm trying. I mean, I kind of understand where you guys coming from.
Like, when you started watching TV, there were what? 3 channels and some repeat channels?
Well, it was channels 2 through 13. So the major networks were CBS, NBC, and ABC.
And then the PBS channels.
Right, and then later on you had UPN, which was Channel 9, where they decided to make a push to be a network.
Right.
And then Channel 5, before it became Fox, that was the rerun channel. That was where you caught up with Three's Company and One Day at a Time and the Ropers. Right, all the syndicated shows, and the same thing for Channel 11. They were shows where you...
Channel 9.
Right, where you caught reruns. Then they started pushing because they wanted to make some network money.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because Pete, for all... Fox launched in 86, 87? I think this is the 20th anniversary of Married with Children. Or the 30th anniversary since it premiered this year. But Pete, you're kind of... You do your own thing at home. You're not... You're looking at everything from almost an outsider's point of view, while I'm... Patrick is very needy and desperate, and he wants attention. I mean, that's just... I mean, but I'm just like...
He's like a rescue animal, a rescue shelter.
Yeah, exactly.
First time I went to the guy, I was soaking wet. I came in out of the rain, the last, and the music came froze.
Yeah, and it's Joni Mitchell music playing that whole fucking dog thing. No, but
you guys are in the arms of the angel.
Yeah. But I mean, someone like me. I mean, I get bombarded. I mean, the other day it was my birthday, and people were trying to give me birthday wishes, and they go, "Hey, we can't write on your timeline. Why is that? We have to private message you." And the reason why I don't let anyone write on my timeline on Facebook is because I had to, even though the store's been closed for 3 years, I still get people who send me trailers, news, anything pop culture related, and they message me, email me, and they want my opinion on it. And if I allowed that on my Facebook timeline, you would never see me on my Facebook timeline. That's why I had to say, but I still get that.
Oh,
I
still get that stuff.
Listen, I have my timeline set for the same thing. I stopped allowing people to post on my timeline without my approval because I was getting bombarded by rappers,
right?
Posting their shitty videos on my timeline.
So you know what I'm talking about?
Interfering with what I'm trying to promote. So I switched that setting, and if they really want to contact me, they can private message me. But dude, you're not looking at the positive side of that. These people think so highly of you that they're seeking out your opinion.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, and I'm grateful.
Mike, you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Right, Mike, what do you think? Is it too much pop culture, too much TV, too many movies, too many comics, too many YouTube videos, too many cons, all that stuff?
There's no such thing as too much popular culture.
Thank you. Hello. I
No
said this.
such
Mike, I've basically been saying the same shit. I say the more the merrier because at some point it's going to go away.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen in our lifetime or our children's lifetime or even our grandchildren's lifetime.
See, I don't think it'll go away. I don't think it'll go away completely. Like, even the Western never fully disappeared, even when it died out in the 70s.
But I wouldn't want
it'll dip.
Each genre stuff to diminish to the point of like the Western.
No, but it will dip. I think it will dip in popularity. I think movies and TV, I think we're going to see a day where the CW will not have a superhero show on it, but they'll have something else in its place that will be considered pop culture. And then maybe after a few years dormant, and then after a few years it'll rise up again.
I looked up on Wikipedia what their definition of pop culture is, and this is what it says. It says popular culture or pop culture is the entirety of attitudes, ideas, images, perspectives, and other phenomena that are within the mainstream of a given culture, especially Western culture of the early to mid-20th century and the emerging global mainstream of the late 20th and early 21st century.
That counts me out. I have no ideas.
Heavily influenced by mass media, this collection of ideas permeates the everyday lives of the society. The most common pop culture categories are entertainment, movies, music, television, games, comics.
Of course.
Right.
Sports, news, as in people and places in the news, politics, fashion, technology, and slang.
So basically, Wikipedia could have just said popular culture is everything.
Yeah, that's funny. I never considered sports to be part of pop culture. I considered sports to be its own thing.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, we know it is. Like,
it fits the category. It meets the criteria.
Yeah.
It fits the criteria, but it always seemed like when we were growing up, it was always sports geeks against the geeks. And sports geeks were considered cool because they were playing sports. They weren't playing D&D.
But that was also because the media...
That's a whole nother show,
The media presented them as cool. Didn't necessarily, I mean, the reality was a lot of them were just assholes. They were bullies, or they were insecure and they were overcompensating.
Right. But what I'm saying is that the whole culture of sports, I never considered part of pop culture. Sports to me seemed to be sports, while movies, TV, comics, gaming was everything else. You know?
Now,
some crossover like Joe Namath, OJ. Remember how big they were in the 70s when we kids got?
Oh, hell yeah. But to me, it seemed like OJ and name it, those guys. It was after they were done with their sports career that moved into movies and TV. It's like it just felt like it was different to me.
Now it goes on to say popular culture is often viewed as being trivial and dumbed down in order to find consensual acceptance throughout the mainstream.
I don't see that.
As a result, it comes under heavy criticism from various non-mainstream sources, most notably religious groups and countercultural groups, which deem it superficial, consumerist, sensationalist, or corrupt.
But the real reason behind that, the real reason the religious section poo-poos pop culture is because it draws attention away from their brainwashing.
That's true.
If people are actually enjoying themselves and trying to find a sense of individuality through pop culture, they're not going to allow themselves to be trapped inside of some building being told to follow these archaic rules from 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So that's why they don't like pop culture. It breaks the hypnosis.
Now, I will go on to add this to what I just read. I will go on to add this to what I just read from Wikipedia. Pop culture historically has always stemmed forth as a response to the ills of society, to the problems mankind has had.
Yeah, I can see that.
Escapism.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's why the motion picture industry rose. That's why television rose. That's why the music industry rose.
Well, not just that. It's also just
people want to forget their trouble.
Yeah, but that's true in anything. That's true.
If people didn't get a break and didn't get to decompress from all the pain and the hardship that come with everyday life, they'd freaking kill themselves or each other.
Yeah, I remember. If anybody
more often.
Trekkies.
Yes.
About the Star Trek phenomenon, and they interviewed everybody and their mother about the Star Trek phenomenon, from the fans to the producers and directors of the show to the stars themselves. John Delancey, who used to play Q on Next Generation and Voyager, he was interviewed as saying there was this one woman who I think she had either cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy, one of the two. And she wrote him a letter. And she said to him in the letter, for the hour that you are on, I forget about the prison that my body has become.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just not... When people criticize pop culture, saying this and this and this, what Mike was saying, the religious people... Most pop culture is immersed in basically telling stories of good versus evil, love, drama, and that goes back to the dawn of time, where people were sitting around fires telling stories to amuse each other. So, I mean, I never...
When you were back there in that age, what was it like?
It was pretty tough back in that age. You had to hunt for your own food.
Yeah. See, I was getting ready to add that too. There has always been, as long as there has been human history, there has been popular culture.
Exactly.
It just hasn't taken the myriad of forms that it's taken in the last century, almost century and a half.
Right. You could say the cave drawings and that they found in France. That's basically entertainment back in caveman times.
Of course. You had people used to tell before there was the written word, before there was the printed word.
There was
people told stories around campfires.
Yeah, spoken word. Yeah.
And the elders taught the legends of their tribe to their children to pass the stories on. That's pop culture.
Exactly. And I just like to say, if Pat was around during those times, he would be sent out to sea to die because he's totally useless. I just feel like I just wanted to say that right now.
Nice.
Not only did pop culture stir the imagination,
Mhm.
but it also was relational. It was social. It was
Yeah.
a way
Bingo.
for people to connect.
That's one of the things.
And it's
Bingo.
and it's also not. It's also for the most part, it's not divisive the way religion and business can be, or like politics is divisive. Religion can be divisive. Pop
Right.
culture almost always a group of individuals struggling against some supernatural or extra normal or otherworldly force,
Right.
trying to find a resolution. Whether it's a bunch of people getting together to fight the invading aliens, or a bunch of people trapped in a house trying to fight the bad guy that keeps appearing out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It's usually there's people trying to work together towards something, and almost everything in pop culture good versus evil?
Yeah, that's
Not everything, but a large
But
majority.
here's my next question. What is your one of the things that Mike hit on was there's just so many venues to consume it. What is your biggest consummation of pop culture? Is it Netflix? Is it TV? Is it going to the movies? Is it comics? Is it books?
Shit.
Right,
For me,
right now, say in the past, it's 2006, 17 started.
Well, to me, it's always been books.
Internet.
And by books, I mean novels and comics. I just always been a book fiend. To me, it's always been
You're
books.
reading that many comics now.
I'm not reading. I'm reading a few comics now, not many, but I'm still reading books. I'm still reading genre. The last couple of months, I bought myself a ton of Asimov and Harlan Ellison books that I never read, and a bunch of My thing is the Twilight Zone. That's my big pop culture nerdism. I'm trying to get anything Rod Serling, Twilight Zone related over the last 70 years, 60 years that the show's been on TV. So I've been buying paperbacks. I've been buying paperbacks, magazines. That's my thing right now. But it's always been comics or books. Reading, I would say reading in general has been more personal to me than watching TV or partaking in sports or video games. So to me, it's always been reading more than anything.
What about you, Mike?
Because you got
This
Bradbury,
year,
Asimov, Bradbury, Asimov, those guys. And so that's what leads to me. So what about you, Mike?
I think it's a combination of, as you said, reading, definitely not just fiction, but reading about factual and historical
Yes.
accounts of
Yes.
various
Love
things.
history too. Same here.
Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so. Of course, that is mixed with reading comics, and that's a big one on my list. The cinema, motion pictures, that's big on my list.
2017. What's your biggest one? There's only one.
Internet.
Only one, I'd say movies.
I say to me it's reading. I read more than go to movies and watch TV.
For this year, for me,
The
it would
internet-
be the internet.
Yeah,
Before the internet, it was books, movies, and television.
I gotta
And was
admit-
when,
Yeah,
when movies were cheaper, when movies were cheaper, when they were like $5, $3.50, whatever. I was in a movie every week.
yeah. I mean, but to me, internet is big too. I read a lot of stuff on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't consider I consider it reading more than using the internet, like watching videos or doing other things on the internet, photos and whatnot. I rather read things on the internet than post photos and do weird things on the internet. That's me.
I like to do weird things.
I know. I love.
We know.
I love doing weird things on the internet.
Now, I've gotten very bad when it comes to this, only because I basically have a job and a career and a life and all that. So
You
I don't have a
do?
lot
You
of
suck.
time to devote the way I wanted to. But I remember back in the day when Oscar season came around and they would announce like all of the nominees. I would make it a point to see every film that was nominated,
Yes.
no matter what was nominated.
Yes.
Yeah, my mom's like that too.
always did that.
You know what's funny? I was like that too up until the economic crash of 2008. I would see a movie a week, and try to catch every Oscar-nominated movie and every independent movie. And then 2008, that streak came to an end because I couldn't afford to go to the movies anymore.
Right.
But I was with you on that, yeah.
I would say my number one thing right now is audio. Audio books, Doctor Who audios.
Yeah, you love that stuff, and you have
love it.
you have the time to listen to it. I find it hard to listen to it at work or I mean, I listen to podcasts at work, like Gilbert Gottfried and stuff like that. But I mean, a Doctor Who audiobook, you're big on those, Patrick. I just, even on the subway, I can't listen to it because my mind is always racing when I'm on the subway.
I never like wearing a Walkman in public.
Yeah, because I'm always feel like it's, when I'm on the subway, it's me against the world on the subway. I can't concentrate.
I never went anywhere without a Walkman. Never. I did not want to. I was always aware of what was around me, even when I was living in the ghetto, and I just didn't want to hear it. I wanted to have my own soundtrack to life, and I constantly had earphones plugged into my ears, no matter where I went.
I'm with Pete on that.
I wouldn't put it on my ears. Like right in my ears, I can hear everything. I can hear everything else.
Yeah.
Oh no, I would blast my music as loud as I didn't want to hear people yelling at each other. I didn't want to hear men and women beating the shit out of each other in apartment windows. I didn't want to hear the cops. I knew.
I'm definitely with Pete on that, and I used to do that too. Still do that on occasion.
Sure.
And I look upon what I play on. Now the delivery method is my own iPhone with my headphones plugged into that.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
And to me, it's like my favorite songs are on there. It's my own personal soundtrack.
Yeah, I get that.
It's the Red Dealer theme soundtrack as I'm walking down the street.
Yeah, because when I listen to music, I'm playing every instrument and performing in front of a packed Madison Square Garden.
There you go.
Okay. No, but I totally understand your point. But that's funny. Back in the 80s, when the Walkman took off, I would only listen to my Walkman until like I met someone or like met up with someone, and then I would, you know what I'm saying? But like, I still liked being part of life back when the Walkman was big, but now as I'm getting older, and people are getting worse and worse, I totally try to escape into my iPhone whenever I can. I hate to say it,
I still feel like I was a part of life. I was just making it better by giving it better music.
Really, I was paying more attention to life.
Escapist element in pop culture.
I'm with you on the escapism, but I figured being in Brooklyn or Manhattan, sometimes I just needed to pay attention to all the fucking craziness around me. Because, like I said, when I'm on the subway, it's me against the world. It's me against the world on the subway. I need to pay attention to the fucking crackhead, to the crazy woman, to like everyone.
Today, guy?
What was that?
Actually, the crazy ones are the ones you don't have to pay attention to. It's the quiet, unassuming ones.
No, see, I think it's the crazy ones sometimes are like, they get volatile. They get violent, and you gotta like really like watch out for them.
Yeah, I think you're paranoid.
No, I think I'm on the N train too much.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude. I grew up in the projects. I lived in East New York. There was constant violence and drug dealing and all kinds of bullshit. And it was depressing to walk through the street and hear the natural sounds around me. So I made that world better by putting on good music or music that I enjoyed.
No, I could totally see that. But I mean, you knew in that world where you grew up, it was one thing. But man, when you get on the subway or go to a different neighborhood, I
took the subway everywhere.
Totally fucking different. But the subways are worse now. You know that, Pete. You
really?
fucking
The subway is worse now than the 90s?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus
Christ, Pat. The subways are like oh my God, the fucking subways are terrible now. Every fucking day I gotta take this fucking thing. Jesus Christ.
How are they worse now?
The filth, the dirt, the crazy people, the homeless people.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. The filth is worse now than it was in the 70s and the 80s?
You don't think so? The other day I got there's more garbage overflowing on trash cans at your subway station than ever before, because there's more people now than even in the 70s and 80s that are using the subway. And then even I get on subway cars where I see pools of vomit in the middle of the fucking floor. And luckily my sense of smell is so bad for some reason that I could be like one of two people in the subway car full of vomit, and it won't affect me that much.
You're turning into Rorschach.
The subway's full of scum.
And then don't forget don't forget there's tons more fucking people getting on with their.
People look up at me and say, "Hold my hair." And
exactly. It's fucking disgusting. I take the subway fucking every fucking day to work, and it's fucking disgusting.
It's so old. It's unbelievable.
There's tons of fucking people with their fucking baby strollers. There's tons of people with their fucking. There's tons.
There's too many people in the subway.
There are.
Grumble, grumble.
There are.
It's a fucking subway.
I tell you one thing. I hope fucking Trump declares war so we can thin out the herd on some things, because it is too much. You don't take the subway every day like I do. It's fucking horrible.
That guy wore it, and listen.
I strongly recommend Uber.
No, fuck Uber. Oh my god, Uber with those fucking people from a third world country who fucking don't even know their fucking way around New York City, even with a GPS. They don't know how to fucking drive. Jesus,
dude, you should just
Christ.
live in a cabin in the woods and just call it a day. Get the fuck out.
No, man, it's fucking worse. The other day, I tried taking a fucking Uber home from my friend's house on President Street, and it's only like 2 miles to my house, and this Uber driver, couldn't even find my friend's house on a very popular street because he fucking didn't even know how to read the GPS. Jesus Christ, it's fucking ridiculous out there.
But you need to get.
We gotta do a whole show about you in New York City.
Holy shit! No, just him in life. Never mind New York. He's not happy. He's not happy online, offline, asleep, awake, in a car, on a train, in a plane, in a boat, in a car, with a cat.
Hey.
Very good segue, Pete.
Pete, you live with your fucking parents. Pat, you live with your parents. Mike is out in California. I gotta deal with this shit every day. None of you fuckos have to deal with what I have to go through.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to The Elder Nerds, starring Patrick Craig, Pete Hernandez, Mike DeLapine, and Travis Bickle.
Yes, Travis Bickle was right. Travis Bickle was right. Travis Bickle was right.
This episode is called The Joys of Life. The next episode will be called The Joys of Life by Gary.
The Joys of Life, that'll be a 1-minute podcast.
Pete's out in Long Island living in the fucking suburbs, and he fucking knows the subway system. Jesus Christ.
Right, because I only lived in the hood for 35 years.
I lived in the hood for over...
What project were you in? One of my best buddies was in Langston Hughes on Mother Gaston and Sutter. I spent a lot of time down there.
I grew up in Brownsville in Glenmore, which was around Mother Gaston. And then from Brownsville, we moved to East New York. From East New York to Starrett City, and then from Starrett City to Long Island.
See? You left. You left.
Yeah, because we're smart.
No, you left because you fucking knew it was getting worse. I stayed, motherfucker. I stayed.
I cannot imagine New York City is worse now than in the 90s or the crack.
It is.
It's definitely not. No,
it
it's
is.
Definitely not.
No, it is. Are you kidding?
It's definitely not. Are you kidding? You could go walk through Brooklyn in your underwear now. They'll probably think you're some cool hipster starting.
Oh, that's hipster douchebags. But I'm talking about the fucking other people that are like one step above the mole people down the fucking subway and in the fucking city.
I used to be one of those people.
I know. Well, you've always been a mole person, so don't fucking deny it.
Yeah, we always moved when there would be murder too close to home.
See, I fucking stayed.
It seemed like the smart. There's no nobility in staying in a shithole and then complaining about it.
Yes, there is, because we fucking stayed, buddy. We didn't run. We fucking stayed and held our ground. You fucking ran.
Me?
What? Me and all the fucking other gindaloons that fucking stayed in Brooklyn.
Grandmother?
All the other gindaloons in Brooklyn that fucking stayed.
Just stay because you couldn't afford to move.
No, we stayed because this was our fucking place. We
But
had
it's not
roots.
anymore.
We had roots
You wanted to
here.
move in with them.
We had roots here, motherfucker. We didn't fucking run.
You stayed because nobody asked you to live with them.
Well, nobody asked you. You just ran like fucking cowards, buddy. We
No,
fucking
we picked
stayed.
up and moved. And the rent was more expensive. We just worked harder and went and left because why would you want to stay and live in misery?
But that's part of
Life
being
is-
a New Yorker. It's every God-given New Yorker's right to be miserable.
You've
You've
had too much to drink. You're talking mad shit.
No, you see, if you knew that, you knew that was a line from fucking Ghostbusters 2. Ghostbusters 2. We stayed, motherfucker.
Oh yeah, the good one.
The fucking people who fucking run to the suburbs are fucking cowards. We fucking stayed in the city through good times and bad. And fucking.
Oh, you're full of shit, and you're comfortable with misery, and that's why you stayed in the fucking.
That's what a New Yorker is,
in
you
the
motherfucker.
ghettos.
That's what a New
Because-
Yorker is. Starrett
You're
City,
miserable,
motherfucker.
And you need other miserable people to live around you to justify
Exactly.
your misery. You miserable fuck.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what being a New Yorker is. The fucking survival, the fucking misery. We ain't running.
Being miserable is easy. That's the coward's way out. It's much harder to be happy.
No, the coward's way out is running away from your problems.
It takes a lot more work to be a cranky old fuck afraid of everything that he can't even put in headphones and enjoy a train ride home.
Because you can't enjoy a train ride home because there's some fucking homeless guy shitting on the fucking goddamn middle of the subway car when you're trying to get home from your fucking soul-crushing job. That's surviving. Running away to fucking Starrett City is a fucking coward's way out. No, running away to Starrett City is a coward's way out.
Keep trying to justify your miserable existence.
And try to justify your fucking, you're the one that's fucking hiding out and fucking being comfortable, afraid of dealing with the real life with your fucking Walkman and iPhone.
Where's that?
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
No, it's
Oh my
fucking
God,
true. You fucking run out to the suburbs and you think you're a fucking New Yorker when you're fucking out in the fucking suburbs and you fucking take the train once a month into the city and you think you fucking know what you're talking about.
Well,
I know what I'm
ladies and
talking-
gentlemen, if there's ever a time that we needed pop culture, it's right fucking now.
See, this is why pop culture is necessary. Otherwise, you'd have to listen to this miserable cunt all day.
Oh, you have to fucking listen to you fucking justifying, oh, I fucking live in the suburbs now. I know what I'm talking about. You don't know dick. You don't know dick. You fucking, the subways are worse now than ever before. There's more homeless people now than ever before in the fucking city. There's more fucking crazy people on the train. And you just come in once a month and you think you know what the fuck you're talking about.
You should go read the comic and mellow out.
Alright.
You should go watch some fucking goddamn CW show.
I've got this actually reminds me. Tell me what you guys think about this. I've been thinking about this as an interesting
Whatever it is, Gary hates it. Just
What
to
it
tell
is,
you.
Pete doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because he lives in the fucking suburbs and he lives in his goddamn fucking parents' and he lives in his fucking goddamn parents' house in the fucking suburbs.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay, Mike, you were going to say something
Oh,
interesting?
shut up, Pete.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Go live in the fucking suburbs. You fucking live at home with your fucking parents. You don't pay fucking rent, for God's sake.
All right.
Are you kidding me? Now you're talking hellish shit.
Oh, fuck you, man. You fucking don't know what
Now
the
you're
fuck.
talking hellish shit.
Go get an apartment in Brooklyn if you fucking know what you're doing.
Why would I want to live back in Brooklyn? You don't go
Exactly,
back, you just
exactly,
stay
because
there.
you're a fucking coward. You fucking don't want to
Wait.
come back in.
Well, you know what? My chair is very comfortable, this coward's chair.
Exactly. Me, I fucking had to deal with all this fucking hardship and fucking bullshit over the years.
Wah. Let me get my violin.
Yeah, fucking.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is all coming to you live, not on tape.
Well, sort of.
I fucking hate people who fucking just fucking live in the burbs and think they know what it's like living in the city. Get the fuck out of here.
Wah.
Oh, shut up.
I
Go
hate
watch
my life.
Go
I'm
watch
gonna drink to
TV
death.
for fucking 12 hours, for fucking God's sake.
The train is full of dirty people.
And it's full of dirty people like you, because you don't fucking know what you're talking about.
I'm very clean, thank you.
No, you're not.
I hate comics and movies and things, and I'm
Mike, how was your day? What is it like out in California right now?
Right now it's nice. It's sunny all day.
Well, you know Gary hates that.
Oh, I love the sunshine.
Mike, why are you moving back to New York?
And Pete's living in his fucking cocoon, think he knows everything.
New York is in the blood.
And Pete thinks he knows everything because
Mike,
he's fucking in the
goes
blood.
where
My pull list is tiny now.
My pull list is tiny too.
Yeah, right?
Invincible. I love Invincible, and I'm sorry that it's ending.
Yeah, a couple of more months, right?
A little more than a couple. I'd say maybe 6 or 7 more months. So I read that almost religiously. The Walking Dead, another Robert Kirkman, which I find the comic stories a little more compelling than the TV episodes. Although I like
run out of steam.
Say again?
You don't think that comics run out of steam?
No, not yet.
Wow.
Not yet. Yeah, there's still more stories to tell.
Because I know so many people that dropped it over the years.
Black Panther.
Yeah.
Anything by Stuart Immonen, which lately has been
Star
Empress.
Wars.
Before that, it was all new Captain America.
Yeah.
Dying to see what he's going to join up with next. And he did Star Wars for a while. That's basically it. I'm like rediscovering a lot of back issues from the 80s, the 70s, the 60s.
Have you seen the Epic Collections, Marvel's Epic Collections? They're like 300 pages, 400 pages for like 20-something bucks, $3.
Really? Is it redoing the old Epic Illustrated stories, or is it?
I don't think they're getting it yet.
No. So they're covering stuff like Dreadstar and Coyote and stuff like that.
No, I didn't see that. But like the Avengers, Spider-Man, all that, and then DC, of course, saw that was selling, so they came up with their own thing. Their first thing I saw was Mark Waid's Flash, which I'd love to get because that's an amazing run.
This is what I was going to tell you.
What is Mark Waid working on, by the way? Does anybody know?
He's working on Avengers. He's working on this, I don't even know what we call it, but it's Cap Spooky Quartet. You know, when Cap, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver in it. But they number it weird.
That's Uncanny Avengers.
Is it? No, Uncanny Avengers is something else.
And he just finished a 12-issue Black Widow run with Chris Samney.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, Chris Samney. Yeah.
So he's got the Avengers, and that's not selling. I was looking up the things, and I read the first 2 issues. It's pretty good.
And
Kang, the story is Vision steals Kang when he's a baby, and adult Kang comes back and goes, where am I?
Next.
And,
that's actually an interesting idea. I like that.
You know what's funny? If it wasn't for pop culture, we wouldn't have this podcast.
Right.
This is true.
Exactly.
Oh, this was bringing me back to what I was going to say before. I've been thinking about conducting a very interesting experiment. I
volunteer Gary.
I wanted to get your take on it. Now, let me just preface it by saying,
does it have any electric shocks in there? Because I volunteer Gary twice.
No.
And don't have Pat say anything because he'll just fuck up the fucking skew, the demographics of it.
Now, just since the beginning of the year, since the first week in January, I've been conducting comic auctions on Facebook Live, to which Gary can attest.
Lightning Rod Collectibles. Yep.
That's right. And it started off slow, started to build up a little momentum. I started building up a following, and it's growing. And I'm very happy to say that it is.
Cool.
Now, what I've done is, with all of the books that I've been trying to sell through that venue, and I'm not the first one to do it. You know, I got the idea from somebody else that was doing it on Facebook.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, there's tons of people selling comics on auction on Facebook Live now. There's a lot of people doing it. But when I was doing it, one thing I discovered was with most of the very early Silver Age comics, and even a really large number of the Golden Age comics, the publishers were in this maddening habit of not putting the creator credits of their books in the pages of the book.
Yes.
So you look at it, and then if you were not familiar with the artist's work, you didn't know who wrote it or who drew it.
Yes.
So, in trying to do my research to figure out who did what, I turned to comicbookdatabase.com.
Yep.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, if you haven't turned on to that website, you really need to, because when you go to comicbookd as in data, b as in base.com, it gives you a wide variety of books that you can look up under various different criteria. You can look up under creators' names. You can look it up under dates published. You can look up under title, under characters. If you wanted to figure out the chronological publishing appearances of a certain character, you could with that website. So I started looking through that, and it was a great help to me in helping me figure out the missing names of creators in certain books.
Mm-hmm.
So I happened to notice one of the links on every page, no matter what book you're looking at on that website, one of the active links is the publishing date. So as an experiment, I typed in the month and year of my birth, which is April of 1964. As a matter of fact, my birthday is coming up on Monday.
Yep.
You're not getting anything.
Huh?
You're not getting anything.
You'll get nothing and like it.
That wasn't a segue. It wasn't a segue. It wasn't a hint. Anything like that.
You'll get nothing and like it.
But I punched in April 1964, and an entire list of comics that were published on that time period came up. 80 books in total. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be cool if I actively tried to track down a copy of each of these books on this list?
I had people do that in my store. We try to find comics for the month they were born. Yeah. Yep. That's
how successful were they?
Pretty successful. We were able to find a lot of books, or at least one. You know, if they were asking for like a Wonder Woman from 1964, we were able to find it on the month.
I found 80 different titles from that month and year from 13 different publishers. And the most notable book on that list for me is Daredevil #1.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
When
and
I'm
I don't have that. The
How's the
earliest
package
copy of Daredevil
market
I
now?
have is number 9.
How's the back issue market now, Mike? Because I just think that it's falling out. Nobody cares.
No, are you kidding? Holy
it's
shit.
strong now.
Yeah.
It's strong now. I'm getting stronger.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Wow, so you still have an issue from the Wally Wood era of Daredevil?
Yes, I do.
Number 9. That's
Yeah.
cool. Daredevil 1? Wow. What I'm more impressed by
Daredevil.
is when you said there were 13 publishers back in 1964.
Yeah.
I didn't think there were that
Yeah.
many.
You got a Harvey.
Well,
Yeah, that includes Harvey,
Golden Key.
Harvey,
Gold Key,
Archie, Marvel, DC,
Charlton,
Gold Key, or Dell, Charlton Bullseye, whatever.
yeah, Classics Illustrated.
Oh shit, they were still around back then. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a lot of them there.
That wasn't Tower Comics back then. I think that came a little later.
No, they were a little later. They were around 67, 68.
Yeah, after Wood left Marvel.
Yeah.
Wow, 13 oh shit, yeah, I guess so.
But the more I think about it, the more I think I'm going to pursue this. Try and find copies. It doesn't matter what.
See, I don't have that passion
career.
anymore. I don't have that passion for comics anymore. Like, remember when you get into comics and you're just like, oh, I'm missing 3 issues here, I gotta get them?
That was because continuity mattered back then.
Yeah, now I just don't have that passion anymore.
Now, why
Yeah.
why
Oh,
is
and you
that?
see,
Why
with
is that,
me, that
Patrick?
passion never left me.
Now, Pat, why don't you have the passion anymore? Because there's more movies and TV and audio and books
Or,
that are related
trades.
to your comic passion. Why don't you have that comic passion anymore?
Yeah, maybe it is because I can get my superhero stuff on TV and the movies, but it's just like I don't want to put up with the boxes. I don't want to put up like tracking down. And when I used to go to cons. I told Gary this. I would get high end Tales of Suspense. Captain America is my favorite character, and I would look. And I would get maybe 1, 2 a convention because that's the only two that like sort of fit my bill. But now I just don't. A lot of deals knew who I was. They saw me coming and like, oh, I got a good book for you. Now I don't. I don't care if I finish that. I don't know.
You don't. So you lost the passion for being a completist.
Yes. But not really, because I think, like, in the end with the Netflix and all that, I'm like, oh, I can get it in trade. What do I get? I could binge watch it on Netflix. It's like almost there's so much pop culture now. I just don't imbibe in any of it.
You know, I have to admit, even though the trade paperback market in comics is strong too, but it's not really for the collector.
No, yeah, I understand.
Not like the individual issues are.
Oh, heck
Right.
yes. Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, the individual issues, that's what drives and sustains the back issue market.
Yes.
Well, I was never a collector. I mean, I followed comics when continuity mattered, but I guess back then I needed to have every issue. But then once they started retconning over and over and over again, my interest became less and less and less until now I don't follow any of it. Because I don't like the idea of investing time in a story that's just going to get erased.
I feel you, Pete.
Yeah.
You know, like a month. It just feels it just seems like a lack of concern to the consumer, to the fan. You know, like who cares?
There's a guy on Book Radio. He always says the fans care more than either the coach or the owner or the player.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing in comics.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, I agree with that.
See,
I think with anything, with TV, with film, with music, yeah, the fans, they they're spending their money on your creation, and because it strikes something in them, strikes a chord in them, and they become really passionate about it. It becomes a part of who they are.
See, instead of retconning everything officially, like DC and Marvel are notorious for doing, I always appreciated more when they had storylines where DC would do Earth 1 and Earth 2, and Marvel would do Counter Earth and Earth X.
Right, or like the What If, right?
And What If, yeah,
right, and What If and Elseworlds and all that stuff.
Make differences in them, some subtle, some blatant, and it took things in a different direction and didn't harm the original continuity.
Right.
Cap is notorious for like having 2 stories, what if stories became actually real.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So now you're saying that even though you, back in the day when you were the only one collecting comics or watching nerdy TV shows and playing video games, now that you felt like you were a loner. Now that pop culture has exploded where it's for the masses, now you feel like what you loved and were into back in the day no longer matters because it's more of a worldwide popular phenomenon now?
I think a little bit, Gab.
No, it always matters.
Comic conventions and more comic stores.
No, what I'm saying is only, but it seems like you guys are like, a lot of us now are like collecting less because, like you're saying, the comic book market is not for the collector anymore, it's for everyone. And now you're not collecting as much anymore because it's more for...
I think comics has its own sort of things I can, own business I can bring on that.
Let's answer that question with a question. Why are people like ourselves that like comics finding ourselves buying less and less of them?
I don't think that's a whole nother show. I think, Mike. We can go on for hours about that.
Well, it is, but
it's still part of it's still part of
digest answer.
Well, it's still part of being too much pop culture. I think it still has to do with, there are studies that say once you have too many options, you kind of like reject all the options.
Yeah, but that's not exactly what I'm driving at.
Yeah, I know. I think age takes, we're not, we've been through, like, the wars with their character, like Captain America. What story are they going to do that's going to really surprise me? Well, Nick Spencer came up with one. Spider-Man, like Batman. Like, what story can they actually do with Batman now after 70 years that's going to ring a bell?
Yeah, so that just makes it more challenging for the creator.
Right, but as a fan, as a consumer, you got to take what they give you, and if you've seen it before or an iteration of it, you're just like, well, that's not,
But do you think subconsciously it has to do with when you were alone fighting these wars, being a nerd and geek and being ostracized from society, for lack of a better term, now that it's become so popular, you feel like you've done your part and you no longer need to be a part of it?
No, not at all.
No, that's not it at all.
No.
That's way off.
I think being an elder nerd is a big part of it.
With me, it's just continuity. If the stories, if they had maintained continuity in comics, I would still be reading them because you felt it was like a character you grew up with and you could relate to. But the characters change every couple of months, every couple of years for a sales spike. There's nothing to attach yourself to.
Yeah,
but
don't you think the story? But don't you think the story is more important than continuity? Like, a good story is a good story, whether or not it ties into the 70 years.
Continuity.
What was that, Pete?
I was like, why can't they tell good stories within continuity? It just seems like it's just weaker writers that just can't work within a given structure.
Exactly.
If you get hired to go on a TV show like that's been running for 5 or 10 years, there's an established history within that TV show you have to work with. And they manage to do good shows, or the show gets canceled. With the Flash or Supergirl, they still have to work. If they're doing stories, a lot of the stories tap back into past episodes. So it's like, I just see it as like weaker writers not being able to deal with working within a structure.
Exactly.
When comics sold more, like in the 80s and 90s, continuity was securely intact.
Yeah.
And these guys were cranking out stories that were so powerful and so poignant that they're the basis for all the big movies today.
Yeah. The X-Men in comics is such a convoluted mess and has been for a couple of decades now.
Mm-hmm.
At least, not being conservative about that estimate. But if that wasn't the case, I'd still be reading the X-Men now.
Right.
Okay, I could see that. But still, if you know that they're rebooting every couple of years and that it seems like continuity no longer matters, can't you still appreciate a well-written story?
I mean,
now,
I think
as opposed to being something that's part of a changing continuity.
I think there's something to say about that, because I did enjoy, for an example, Injustice: Gods Among Us, which is like its own self-contained thing.
Yeah.
That was really good, but I think it was the artwork that sucked me in, and then after the artwork attracted me, the story grabbed my attention for the entire run, and I tore through all of the years, year 1, year 5, or however long it ran, and it doesn't connect to anything that came before.
And that's the way a good comic should be. The art draws you in, the story holds you in.
Right.
Does it still have to be in continuity? Does it still have to be in continuity to be a good story?
No.
Good
But
argument.
if it's a good story, it automatically becomes part of the continuity.
So even in shifting continuities, a good story is superior to the continuity that you're saying. So, but if you're disgusted by shifting continuities, like Pete was saying, and Pete has stopped reading comics because of the shifting continuity, why can't you judge that good story on its own instead of being part of a larger continuity?
Well, you can. The
It's just
the
rare, I think.
continuity, the continuity is its broadest term, and the individual great story is the lowest common denominator of it.
Okay, but if you're getting that every once in a while, then why are you disgusted by shifting continuities? If the
Because of
story
the
stands
direction.
alone, why do you need to worry about shifting continuities? Judge the story on its own merits.
Oh, I do.
But if you're disgusted by shifting continuities, why are you dropping books?
Because the shifting continuities as of late don't make any sense. They contradict each other. They cancel out something that was established the issue before.
But again, if you're getting a standalone good story, does it matter what went on before they changed
yes and
it?
No. Yes and no. In comics, more yes than no. Because comics is all about continuity.
Yes.
Right. It's sequential.
I give you that, but it doesn't seem to be the norm anymore, especially in the last 5 years. It doesn't seem to be.
Unfortunately.
So can't you distance yourself from continuity to enjoy a good story?
You
can,
but for me, I think it's hard to.
After I finish the story and recognize it for its merits as an individual story, then I pull back and see how it fits into the structure of continuity.
But if continuity is always shifting, you can't really pull back and say, how does this fit into continuity? Because continuity seems to change every year with a big event.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about it.
So shouldn't you just judge a story on its own merits?
Well, like I said, yes, I do. I do that anyway, with no matter what it is I read. But then I see if it fits into the larger picture, and I'm happier if it does fit into the larger picture, because it should.
Well, I don't know if it should, because the other week, Pete and I and Pat, I don't think you were with part of us, Mike, we were talking about someone like the Punisher. Now, the Punisher was created out of Vietnam. Now, here it is, almost 50 years after Vietnam ended. It's been 40 years since Vietnam ended. The Punisher doesn't age. You're talking 2017.
Yeah,
you're still doing
the Punisher. That veteran is still alive. You can just make him Iraqi or Syria.
But see, that's it. But now you're shifting continuity.
No, you're not. It's the thing. It's this theme of this guy went away and he became trained soldier, and he comes back and somebody kills his parents, so he has the skill set to enact his revenge.
Right, but in the beginning it was Vietnam. Now you're shifting it to.
But he doesn't need to go to Vietnam to become a trained killer. He can go to Syria, he can go to Iraq.
But that's what I'm saying. Now you're shifting the timeline.
Yeah,
on his origin.
It's not shifting continuity. He's still a soldier vet.
No, but you are shifting continuity because he was originally created in Vietnam. He should be. He should be 70 years old by now.
Yes,
he should be 70 years old by now. You can't have a. You can't have a 20. You can't have a 30.
Spider. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it does because Vietnam was his training ground. Now you're shifting it to Iraq.
Now his training ground could be the Middle East or Afghanistan or Africa.
Right, but like I said, now you're shifting continuity. You can't keep bringing.
You're not.
Yes, you are.
He's a combat vet. People whose family got killed. That Vietnam doesn't. He's not forced to say, my Vietnamese upbringing or my Vietnamese training taught me to kill.
Yes, it did. That's part of the Punisher. He learned how to kill in Vietnam. Now you're shifting it. Now you're shifting it.
He learned to kill in Vietnam. The thing is, he learned to kill. He can learn to kill in Afghanistan. He can learn to kill in the Middle East. He can learn to kill
I totally agree with you. But now they're shifting that continuity. So now the Punisher. So now the Punisher being created in Vietnam doesn't matter anymore. So now you're still telling good stories.
Went to Afghanistan does. What's the big deal?
The mistake was in tying him to the Vietnam War in the first place. There are several government positions that he could have had to have gotten the training that he required that didn't have to be tied to any world war or conflict.
Maybe that's why that character's had trouble staying afloat, because he's so grounded in a particular timeline.
Exactly.
Whereas the Flash gets hit by a lightning bolt. Spider-Man gets bitten by a spider. Batman loses his parents and falls into a cave and sees the bat.
Yeah, but there's a certain relevance with the Punisher in the sense that he's tied to a historical event.
Right, but I'm saying it's an event. It's an event that's so specific.
It wasn't Vietnam that said, I'm going to go back and kill anybody who kills my family. It wasn't the Vietnam experience that gave him that. The skill set is what gave him the ability to do that. And that skill set you could have gotten from, like you said, Mike, could have gotten from any number of
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, too. So if shifting continuity doesn't matter, then why is it that some people care about continuity and can't judge a story on its own without that continuity?
I think it's just different tastes in fans. I guess some people prefer serialized fiction, and some people like one and done.
Now, the one character that was tied to a historical event in his origin and his exploits, and Marvel found a loophole for him to get away with existing, and it works, is
Captain America. Yep, there you go.
I have a couple things to say. First of all, the thing about continuity, there was a big. I was going to save this for the Wonder Woman show. Originally, Hippolyta makes a daughter out of clay, and Athena breathes life into her. So with the New 52, they changed that, and they had Zeus seduce Hippolyta, and there you go, Diana. And a lot of Wonder Woman fans were mad, but that's very different from saying, Punisher is a Vietnam vet. Now Punisher is an Iraqi vet. Now Punisher is an Afghani vet. Now Punisher is a West Africa vet. It's very different. It's a very different thing.
It's probably just the nature of his origin that makes him a character that's tough to deal with, because Vietnam is a very specific point in time, and it's not a broad enough origin where you can update it easily. Maybe you know what I mean? Like the Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. They're kind of timeless. You can write those characters.
Yeah.
You don't have
Punisher
to.
Is timeless too. Punisher is like
but I think Punisher is timeless. I don't think Punisher is timeless. I think Punisher has become timeless because he was created during a historical event. Yes, you could say Captain America was created during a historical event, but they covered that by being frozen in ice and not aging. And Wonder Woman, is based in myth, so you could kind of fool with continuity because she's based in mythological adventures, Zeus, whomever, Ares. But Punisher, he was based in Vietnam. He came out of Vietnam.
Okay, I have a question. What is it about Vietnam, besides the skill set, besides being able to shoot a gun, besides able to hit his targets, what is it about Vietnam that makes Punisher Punisher?
But he knows how to kill.
I just said you can't use that.
No, but that's the whole point of the Punisher. If he didn't,
you can get that anywhere, guys.
No.
This is why.
If you took a regular, if Frank Castle was an accountant, working for some Jewish accountant firm in Manhattan, and his family got killed in Central Park, it wouldn't be the same as someone who was trained in Vietnam. It's apples and oranges.
All right. I'll give you your Punisher of that, right? You have your Punisher. I'll take TV Punisher, who's over in Afghanistan and the Middle East.
This is why I never thought the revisionist version of the Punisher, where he didn't go to war. He instead was a New York City police officer, and his family got gunned down. He doesn't have the skill set under those criteria in order to justify him being the Punisher. All he had was his rage.
No. As a New York, when you train to be a cop, you learn certain skill sets. Maybe not military skill sets, but you still learn certain skill sets that an ordinary civilian doesn't have.
The military skill sets that put the Punisher over the edge.
Yes, I give you that.
You don't get that from being a New York City police officer.
Yeah,
it's incomplete.
New York City, any cop.
Let's face New York City. Well, let's face it. Being trained to be a cop, you may not have that military skill set. There's a lot of stuff. New York City police officers in general are based in military training. How to hold a gun.
That's my question before you go on, Mike. When did they do that? When did they make him a cop? I wasn't around. I didn't know.
Oh God, that must have been like I want to say early '90s.
Okay. All right.
Really?
Get Gary.
Really, even the early '90s. But still, when you train to be a cop, you're not just an average civilian picking up a gun, getting revenge. You may not be military. You may not be military, but you're still learning certain skills. I have tons of friends who became cops. They don't think and act the way a regular civilian does when shit goes down.
That's for sure.
Right,
yeah,
Pete?
Right.
Right?
That's for sure.
But the thing is that because the Punisher was based on a historical point. Now you're shifting that
what
point.
Is it about Vietnam era? What is it about? Is it the counterculture? Is it the counterculture he went into? Was he an anti-Nixon? Was he pro-Nixon? Was he part of like the My Lai massacre? What is it about Vietnam?
I don't even think that's
Well, the Vietnam. Well, don't forget a lot of veterans who came back from Vietnam came back with PTSD. They were disrespected by the American people and the American government. They weren't treated as war heroes the way World War II or Korean veterans were. So they had a lot of mental trauma in their life. And when Frank Castle's family was murdered, that trauma snapped. It put him over the edge to become the Punisher, which you wouldn't have gotten if he was just a regular Joe Schmo who watched his family murdered.
Okay, I'm saying Frank Castle is still a soldier, but he's a soldier of the current day, meaning he's a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever. And those guys are shooting themselves in the head like it's going out of business.
That's unfortunately very true.
So you still have that PST with a veteran today.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Then you don't need to concentrate on continuity to enjoy a character like the Punisher, because you could put him.
Punisher is intrinsically tied to Vietnam, and without Vietnam, he's not the Punisher. He's not Frank Castle. Now, my point is, you could put him into any American armed conflict. Keep coming home with all that stuff and all those skills and all that crap in his head and see his family die.
No, but that's what I'm saying too. Continuity doesn't matter, so I can enjoy a Punisher story.
Well, you know
if he's a Vietnam vet, or if he's an Iraq, a Desert Storm 1 vet, or a Desert Storm 2 vet, the thing is that you have fluid continuity, so I could still enjoy a Punisher story today, as opposed to some people who think, oh, I can't read this Punisher story because he's not based in Vietnam anymore.
You know what? Maybe he's just one of those characters that you can do that with. You know what I mean? He's one of those characters that doesn't have to be tied to continuity, as opposed to some others that benefit from it.
But then,
yes,
I agree with you, Pete. Pete, I agree with you on that point. But then there are people who think that continuity is all that matters in a person's story. So if it doesn't relate to Vietnam, the story doesn't mean anything. What I'm saying is that continuity doesn't matter. It's the story that's more important.
So it's true. There's exceptions to the rule. That character is actually a perfect one, perfect argument for non-continuity.
Right, and I've always been in favor of non-continuity.
Would have been perfect for the Punisher and his continuity instead of tying him to a war like Vietnam or in later years the Gulf Wars or whatever, and instead of making him a New York City police officer, which brings his skill set to a level of incompleteness that needs to be complete in order to round out the character the way he was meant to be. He should have been written from the very beginning as a SHIELD agent.
Nah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
I thought you were gonna go Black Ops.
Yeah, I think it would have been.
SHIELD doesn't have Black Ops? Sure they do.
But when you tie him into SHIELD, that's a whole nother type of storytelling continuity in Marvel that
it could have worked.
So it's basically it's fair to say that some characters really do benefit and work best within an established continuity, and some you can just put them in any time period.
Well, isn't Iron Man the perfect example? His comic book origins are based in early Vietnam, but the movie's success was tied into current events of what's Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Right? Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the perfect example. So you don't need continuity to tell a good story with a character like Iron Man. That's my point, is that, you know, some people who don't read books anymore because of the fluctuating continuity, I don't understand that. To me, it's the story that matters most than the continuity.
I think that the people who were turned away, like me, by continuity were so enamored by the character and how the character evolved based on his adventures, i.e. the story of the month or the story of the week or whatever, that you just kind of develop an affection for that character. And now it seems that the plot is more important than the character, and the character's personality just constantly changes.
And that's another problem. When, let's say,
I can see that.
Going to write,
you know what I mean? Like, maybe
yeah.
I think that's it. I'm sorry, Mike. I think that's it. I think that I mean, all of these comics, TV shows, movies, they revolve around a central character or a few, maybe two or three, or, forget the Avengers. Say Spider-Man is all about Spider-Man. Iron Man is all about Iron Man. So a well-written character, a well-defined character sucks you in because you identify with them as a person, and then you go along with them on these different adventures.
See, I know.
See, that's what I'm saying, but that's what I'm saying, that continuity doesn't matter then. So if you're not
but the character's continuity should be, like, their personality should be the same. And what I'm saying is that depending on the event of the month, the characters are completely different to how they've been written over the years. You know what I mean?
See, I know a couple of writers who write prose and have done so for franchises like Star Trek, for the novel, for the novelization.
Right.
And they have, and I believe it was Pocket Books at the time that was doing all the Star Trek novels. They had a Bible for all of the characterizations, all the main characters that you expect to see in every book. And there were two rules that had to be followed. One, you don't kill off any of those characters. Two,
because of merchandise.
Yes. IPs, yeah.
You follow the characterization as it's laid out in that Bible. That means it breaks down what they would do in certain situations, what they would not do in certain situations. And when you have characters that are well rounded out like that, they basically write themselves.
Right.
You know, the only, well, up until recently, Captain America you could consider to be one of those two characters. One of those two characters in comics that behaves that way.
Right.
You can't even say that about Superman, but you could about Batman.
Right.
And you definitely
look at Batman. Batman's another interesting character to point out in regards to this particular topic, because his exterior look has changed God knows how many times since they first created him.
Right.
But the gist of the character, probably going as far back,
same.
It's always remained the same, at least from
Yes.
the point of when Frank Miller did The Dark Knight.
But
From then
Batman's
on, he's
origin
been
is not based on a historical event, which is stuck in time. Batman's origin is just parents murdered. Anybody can have that origin story.
Right.
While you're dealing with Punisher or Iron Man, who were created out of a certain specific historical moment,
Right.
then as we get farther and farther away from that historical moment, Vietnam War ended in 1975. We're talking now 37 years since the end of the Vietnam War. I mean, as you get further and further away, is the Punisher being created during Vietnam relevant? So you have to keep changing his continuity. Desert Storm 2, Iraq, Pakistan, to make them current to the time that you're reading them. So that's what I'm saying, is that continuity doesn't matter as long as the story matters.
Continuity. That's not continuity. That's a tweak to continuity.
It's a tweak to continuity, but again, you're shifting continuity because his foundations were based. His foundations were based in a historical moment. What I'm saying is that Punisher's foundations were based in a historical moment. That, as you get farther and farther away, your distance, he becomes more and more irrelevant, or you have to age him to that time.
See, that's why DC came up with the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths idea, and that's why Crisis on Infinite Earths was ultimately a mistake on a corporate level that they later corrected.
Explain. I kind of see your point, but
I don't see your point at all, Mike.
Can you flesh that out?
DC wanted to eliminate all the other, Earth
The
X,
multiverse.
Earth 2, and all that crap.
Yeah, the multiverse. They wanted to make it one world.
Yeah, because their reasoning was readers were getting confused.
Yeah.
So they erased all of those other timelines in one fell swoop. But they later, slowly but surely, brought all of those Earths, all of those different universes back.
Well,
Which
yeah,
is
that's the thing.
validating.
Everybody brings down that shit.
Yeah.
Well, listen,
So
Alright,
why
well,
was it a
I
mistake?
think-
So wait. No, wait. Mike, why was it a mistake, do you
It
think?
was a mistake because there are so many other stories that you can tell differently with the same characters that don't have to be part of the original continuity. It could be its own continuity, and it could be separate and apart. That's why stories on time travel exist. And it's also why time travel is so difficult to write.
You just made me think about with I think DC characters can rely less on continuity than Marvel characters I'm just thinking out loud, because DC's characters they were like gods pretending to be human.
Right.
And Marvel's characters were humans trying to deal in these crazy, incredible situations, but they were all people. They were like guys on the street, somebody you might ride the train with or be on the bus. Peter Parker was a kid in Queens, and so and since they were people, and people have lives that exist, that have a continuity, that things that happen in your past, you distance yourself from them, but they still happen and they still help shape who you are.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Marvel characters benefit better. I mean, just for the sake of argument, they benefit more from continuity than DC, because DC, like, they're godlike. They can be.
I would say so. I would say
you can tweak Wonder Woman just
That's
like you can. Just like stories have been all stories of ghosts and Anubis and Zeus and King Arthur have mutated over the years, because these characters are like, they're iconic symbols as opposed to regular human beings who who have to shit and eat and wear underwear and put on socks. That they're just always in those costumes, ready to go do things.
Besides, DC Comics didn't adhere upon continuity as a
Mhm.
whole throughout their entire line of books on a regular basis until the late 1970s.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Marvel had been doing it since the very beginning.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
So right, because
Exactly.
Marvel dealt with people and DC dealt with ideals. Maybe
Right.
is fair.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that
I just want to say
that's
about
totally
serial,
correct.
serial
Yeah.
fiction like comic books and TV, it's character driven. If the character changes, the show is different. The comic
Right. Jack
right.
Bauer has to be Jack Bauer had to be Jack Bauer in every episode of 24 as he was in.
Also, with both TV and movies, there's a certain kind of who would you, like with TV? It's like, would you really invite these people into your living room? And that kind of runs it.
It's like, I remember.
Firefly. I can't name one character on that show that I don't absolutely fucking love.
Yeah, they're all great. Even the asshole. What was the asshole one?
Jane.
Jane? Yeah, yeah.
Like, I
But then
remember
again-
from
But
the,
then again, that's Joss Whedon just being an amazing writer. He knows how to write multi-dimensional characters that are
Yeah.
good and bad in the same breath. You know?
You know, it reminds me of a quote from Denzel Washington when he did the Equalizer remake,
Mm-hmm.
and he
was
was
pretty
saying
good, by the
to-
way.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
well,
And he
really
said to the girl that he was explaining the book, what was it, Moby Dick? Or
Yeah, it was Moby Dick.
Yeah, that he was trying to explain what the gist of the story was. And he said, you know, Captain Ahab's got to be Captain Ahab. The fish has got to be the fish.
mm-hmm.
Another thing I wanted to say
Mammal.
is sometimes with all the reboots, sometimes like it was like Legion of Superheroes. I used to be a big Legion of Superhero fan.
Yeah.
I did too.
And
Yay.
then they rebooted it. I said, okay, I'm on it. Then they rebooted it again. Then they gave when Giffen was on it. Giffen got crazy and great stories, blah blah blah. And he had the Adult Legion, and people didn't like the Adult Legion, so they said a thing where the Legion's all been cloned, and they find the clones, and all the clones are kids, or the clones they found are really the people, and the Adult Legion is the clone. And then they rebooted it again, and then they rebooted it again. I was like, I'm not going up this hill again. Sorry, DC. You're on your own.
Yeah. See, that's where the fatigue sets in when the retcons are. I mean, because like I was talking about remakes online, and I'm not bothered by remakes because the remake doesn't destroy the original. But in these you know what I mean? Like, and the remake could be good or it could be horrendous, which in most cases is pretty bad. But you have that rare case where the remake was better, like the Dawn of the Dead remake, which is amazing. But then you have 10 others that are like, ugh, you should have left that alone. You know?
I think in comics, the worst reason to do a retcon on a character or a series is for financial reasons, for sales.
But isn't that the only reason they do them?
Exactly.
Yeah, it is.
Somebody somewhere in that shop is saying, "Great, that's a great idea. Nobody's gonna buy it."
Yeah. But Pete,
Mhm.
what you were saying about remakes,
Uh-huh.
I think what you were saying, like we had this discussion before. I think
Yeah.
someone like Ridley Scott, who's going to reboot or James Cameron's
Yeah,
going to
James
reboot
Cameron,
the
yeah.
Terminator franchise, it lessens the original.
Yes, it does.
I
Yes,
think it does. I think if you're going to reboot,
But if James Cameron's doing it,
no,
maybe
I think it still lessens the original vision. I'm
But
sorry.
we don't
I would
know
tend to
what
agree.
he's doing. But we don't know what he's doing.
It
All we
doesn't-
know is that he's going to do it.
It doesn't matter. You're still tweaking the original
On the
vision.
face of it, it's a bad idea.
It's like what George
The way-
Lucas
the
did
way
with
I see
Star
it is
Wars.
it
George
could
Lucas kept
be-
going back and tweaking his original vision by
And you know
adding
what's
junk.
funny? I was just going to mention George Lucas before I was going to say it
Well,
could
that's a whole other show.
it could be a breath of fresh air to the Terminator franchise, or he could Lucas the whole thing and just water down Star Wars and really,
But no matter
really
what,
make it crap.
to me,
See,
if
that's
you're going
why-
back to your original creation, I think you're lessening your original creation. It just shows you you're bereft of ideas by going back to something that's
But
30 years
I
old.
don't know that James Cameron is somebody that would be considered bereft of ideas. I mean, he's been an innovator his entire career
Yeah.
as a filmmaker.
But
Once
like,
he-
but like
you know,
we
once
argued
he-
before, why not put those original ideas to a new storyline? Why must
I
you
don't
go
know.
back to a popular brand? Why must you go?
this is-
He's going back to a
I'm
popular brand because it's a popular brand.
or
and it's
or
safe.
he loved it, hated what. Didn't he go on record saying he hated what they did with the series in the subsequent movies?
Yeah, I think he did say that.
But that wasn't his vision. His vision were the first two films.
But I'm thinking,
and if he's going back to his first movie, he's lessening that idea.
But trying to look at the positive side of it, he's a creative dude, clearly. That's pretty much inarguable. Mm-hmm. He's always pushed the boundaries. Maybe he had something that he hadn't said with Terminator back then because of limitations in money and technology and whatever that he can say now because he has all the freaking power. He has all the power and influence he needs.
But if the first one was so successful with his limitations, why do you want to go back? Why do you want to go back and add to it?
I would say great stories get retold and retold and retold, and like great songs get covered up. Also, in a lifetime, Gary.
Back with comics. Thinking of the death of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
If Superman had stayed dead, that would have been revolutionary.
Oh, it would have been an epic. It would have been probably one of the most epic moments in comic history.
Oh yeah.
No, but also go back to what Pat just said. If you're adding the stories, I mean, sometimes adding to the original vision lessens it. Sometimes look at Wolverine.
It could very well be a huge mistake.
Yes, look at Wolverine. Yeah. Look at Wolverine. When he first appeared, he was a man of mystery. He was a midget from Canada. Knew Japanese, was violent. We had no idea what the fuck was going on with Wolverine. Over the last 40 years, they've tried to fill in every fucking minute of his life.
I agree.
Has that enhanced the character, or has it lessened it?
Because the only thing anybody cares about is that he gets mad and slices people up.
Exactly. So all that bullshit about him being part of Project X, him having children, him being cloned, has that really added anything to his character?
Some of the most important things about Wolverine that were unrevealed, for the most part, until the last few years, should have remained unrevealed.
Exactly. So you don't need to fill in every second of his life to be an interesting character. That's what I'm saying may happen with the Terminator franchise.
Right. It's true. It could very well be a total flop.
No, I don't think it'll be a flop.
By the way,
money-wise.
That I like the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the Terminator TV show.
I thought that was fun too.
That was decent.
That's what I heard.
That was before she was the Khaleesi. I mean, not the Khaleesi. What's the crazy bitch? The queen on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the Cersei.
Thank you. Right, Cersei.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I heard, but that enhanced. But if he goes back,
she's also good as the villainess in Dredd too. The Judge Dredd remake.
Oh, that's right. She was in that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But
I just feel like if you're a creator and you're going back to a successful brand 30 years ago, to me it just seems like weak writing. I don't know.
You know what? That's all.
But I don't think he needs the
that's what
money.
Lucas did.
He doesn't need the money, so why do it?
Right. But then think about how many times Robin Hood has been retold.
Well,
sometimes less is truly
But
more.
the thing is, with Robin Hood, you're not talking about the original creator 240 years later rewriting
you know what?
the original story.
Robin
Hood is in public domain. Robin Hood is in public domain. That's
exactly what I was going to mention.
Yeah,
that's right.
exactly.
Robin Hood, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, all that stuff is public domain. That's why those movies always come back, because they're cheap, because you don't have to pay anybody the rights.
Exactly. But look at something like Frankenstein. I think this month was the 200th anniversary of the novel being written, or March. Or March was?
No.
When you think of Frankenstein, what's the basic story of Frankenstein? A scientist?
The scientist creates a monster.
Created something against God's will.
Yep. Tampers with nature.
Creates a human being that wants to be loved by its creator. and is shunned
Mm-hmm.
by its creator. Now think of that.
And
out of all the
That's
subsequent
like my story, Gav.
exactly. Now think of all the subsequent monster movies that have come with Frankenstein after that basic foundation.
I once wrote for the Comic Artists Guild. I once wrote a revisionist story of Frankenstein that the plot closely resembled the original novel. But what I did was I set it in the far future with aliens, with like an almost all alien cast, and the scientist was an alien who wanted to create this drone for slave labor out of organic materials, and he created, for all intents and purposes, a human being. A beautiful human being that was shunned by all the other aliens around him.
That's like my story.
That's a cool story. But what I'm trying to get at is that the basic foundation of Frankenstein, what Mary Shelley wrote, is what's most remembered, even though there have been hundreds of movies, hundreds of books, hundreds of stories told,
Comics,
hundreds of
comics.
bastardizations.
But the main foundation is what people remember most.
Yes.
More than anything else. You could talk about the Hammer films, this, De Niro, this, but the basic foundation is scientist tries to play God, fucks up, monster wants to be loved by its creator, and is shunned. That's Frankenstein. No matter how much you add to it, the basic foundation is so strong, you don't need all that extra 200 years of storytelling to add to the Frankenstein mythos. The foundation is strong enough to stand on its own.
Well, it's because when you're starting with an iconic premise.
Well, you could kind of say Terminator has now become an iconic present. Man from the future travels back in time, falls in love with...
Mike, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, did anybody see the full-blown trailer for Tom Cruise's version of The Mummy?
No.
I don't think so. I think I saw
I want to see it.
The most interesting thing, and I still don't know if it's good or bad or not, but the most interesting thing about the trailer is that Universal is trying to capitalize on the Universal monsters as a shared universe.
Yeah, shared universe. Yes, I read that. Yeah.
Because Russell Crowe appears in the movie as Dr. Jekyll.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And I'm like,
the new thing now with studios is they're all trying to create shared universes.
Yes.
So they want to copy what Marvel did.
Yes.
Right.
Everybody's doing it. They're trying to do it with Ninja Turtles, with Transformers, with the monsters, with the Godzilla, King Kong shit.
Yeah.
Everything. Everybody's trying to create a shared universe. I'm surprised nobody's done the horror movie dudes yet. You know,
Airbud and Free Willy.
Airbud and Free Willy.
What's another reason? But continuity matters because I paid for it, so that's part of it. But I feel like
that's a shirt. That is a fucking shirt to be made and worn at Comic-Con. That is awesome.
But like I feel like the whole the mechanism of storytelling are very different now. 6 issues, put through 6 issues, get a trade out. 6 issues, get a trade out. And I feel like the event economy, which I want us to do a whole show on it, is like every time a writer gets going, boom, gets stepped on by an event.
Oh yeah, that's been happening for over a decade, right? Going on 20 years, I think.
Yep.
Because I remember it happened to Straczynski. I remember one specific instance was Straczynski when JMS came on Thor. He breathed new life into Thor and was writing these great stories where Thor actually felt like an epic fantasy character.
Yep.
And then because Bendis came out, had the idea for, I think it was Siege. Which one was the one where they destroyed Asgard?
Siege.
That was Siege.
Yeah, so the word I got from an insider was Bendis popped up with the idea for Siege, and since he was, really the hot thing at the time, he had Quesada's ear. Yeah, he had Quesada's ear, so they just told Straczynski, wrap it up. We're killing this storyline because of Siege, because we're going to blow up Asgard in Siege. Yeah. And I think that was what drove him away from Marvel over to DC. I'm not 100% sure.
I know that drove me away from events. That was the last event I swore I would buy. Never do. I don't think I even bought the last issue. I was like, this sucks. I'm not buying anymore. Fear itself, no, none of that events. Now Secret Empire's coming out, and I'm a Cap fan.
Well, you know what? In regards to continuity, think about how we felt about shows that we love that were never given a chance to reach their conclusion, and they were just canceled. That's kind of how I feel when they retcon a series that you're into, and you've been reading it for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden, poof, well, fuck that, we're done. We're not even finishing it. It's kind of like it's like somebody pulling the rug out from under you at the last minute. Like, oh, by the way, yank.
What would you say, Mike? What would you say is the biggest comic for you in your lifetime? Like the one you just could not miss.
The biggest comic event?
No, just comic.
At the time, that's tough because I'm thinking of a couple of them.
Yeah.
One.
Are they indie?
No.
Okay.
One was a comic that promised to really shake up continuity in the DC universe, now the multiverse, was Crisis on Infinite Earths. That I really looked forward to.
Oh, that was
I love that one.
And I wasn't disappointed at least from the artwork. The story but the artwork was great.
Was that the first big comic event, or did Secret Wars precede Crisis?
No, Crisis came first.
Crisis
came first. So that was the first big comic event.
Yeah,
series.
line wide.
Well,
line
no,
wide,
it wasn't the first. On a smaller scale, one that is one of my fan favorites that was done several years before was the crossover between the pages of the Avengers and the Defenders. The Avengers-Defenders War.
Oh, now we got to
Which I touched upon a few weeks ago when we talked about Doctor Strange, the movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I don't even... You know what? I don't even
that was like
remember that.
pre-Scroll War, but it's not. The first line-wide event, meaning every book was affected by it.
Right.
Was Crisis. Okay, so that's like the first big...
Yeah. Well, you could talk the Kree-Skrull War, you could talk the Avengers-Defenders War, but they weren't company-wide events. Yeah.
No.
Pat's right in that regard, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was Crisis.
Yeah. But Pete, what you were saying earlier is that about TV is when you were watching a show and then the show was canceled prematurely before before its storylines wrapped up. I mean, can you still appreciate the show for what it did and the story it's told? But
you feel, since there's no resolution, it's. I'm trying to find the words for it. It's just unsatisfying. It almost like leaves a little hole in your little geek heart. You know what I mean? Like Firefly never reaching its conclusion, or even Dollhouse.
Really? See, I'm totally different because I'm thinking of a show like VR5, which came on before X-Files in the mid-90s. It ran for 2 years. It never resolved its storylines. But I still love it because of the individual episodes and its stories that it's told, even though
it didn't have an overreaching arc.
It had an overreaching arc. It had an overreaching arc, and it was never resolved because it was canceled prematurely. But I still love and respect the show for what they did in those 2 years without resolving its main storyline.
You know what? The other day, I revisited Better Off Ted.
Oh, I love Better Off Ted. Better Off Ted was one of the most fucking brilliant fucking comedies of the last 10 years.
I love that show. And it was my 5th time revisiting that show since I discovered it, I don't know, in 2010 after it got canceled.
Wow. I watched it from the beginning. I watched it from the beginning and loved it. And when it
Yeah.
got canceled,
To answer your question, Pete, you do still love it, but it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, because especially once the arc starts to build, you start like, oh, this is when the show gets canceled. Fuck, and it kind of ruins the enjoyment
but see,
of
I don't
those
know.
last few episodes.
I could see that, but to me, I understood that it being canceled was a business decision because of ratings.
Right.
So I enjoy what I had for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it being
Yeah, it's
canceled
true.
prematurely.
You have no choice, really, right? It's like
Yeah,
you got no
exactly.
option.
So, it's kind of like, it didn't resolve its storyline, but I still respect it and love it for what it was and what I had.
Maybe a better example is
Better Off Dead was awesome.
Going way back is the classic complaint that turned into a joke where they switched Darrens on Bewitched and how the show was never the same after they switched out the Darren.
Yeah.
I never even noticed.
Well, that's just an example of you had a continuity and they tried to switch it out. I don't remember why they switched actors. Maybe the guy quit. Who knows? But
No, I know why.
He had
The
back
first
problems.
actor-
He had major back problems.
Had severe back problems.
Yeah.
Really?
To the point where he couldn't even function anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he got
Yeah.
written off the show, and they brought in the second Darren.
No, but it was the same Darren, just a different actor. Which
But for some reason,
didn't bother me. It didn't
But for
bother
some
me
reason
as long
you
as
think the show
what's her
suffered.
name, as long as what's her name was in the lead in those short skirts. I didn't give a shit who the fuck was Darren.
30.
What was her name? I forget. What was her name?
Elizabeth Montgomery?
Elizabeth Montgomery, right? Elizabeth Montgomery, right.
I mean,
oh my god, I love that show.
God,
Exactly.
I remember she did a police story episode.
Really?
And it was opposite O.J. Simpson. Anybody remember that?
No.
no, not at all.
And she survived OJ, huh?
Yeah.
But the thing is
I
that
love
even though they
that game.
switched actors, they didn't switch continuity.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's
But
one
you
of
know
the
what,
things I'm kind of looking forward to in the Marvel universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, is seeing some of these guys step aside and see what some other actor does for it.
Yeah,
Can anybody think of a comic story? Can anyone think of a comic story that ended unresolved?
The Crew got canceled. Slingers got canceled.
Slingers sucked.
I like it. The X-Men had a couple that they got a new editor or whatever, they left going.
Didn't Kevin Smith do some comics that he either took forever to finish or
Yeah,
never
Batman.
finished?
Yeah.
Batman, the Whiting Year.
The Whiting Year, it's pronounced? Okay. Yeah, that was never finished. His Bullseye versus Daredevil was never finished.
What's that artist from the '90s everybody loved? That what, Battle Chasers was it that never got resolved?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Joe Leguria,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one. But
That ran 9 issues, didn't it?
it was unresolved, but not because it was canceled.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was thinking
It went from beginning to end, deliberately being unresolved. Anybody remember from Epic Illustrated, The Last Galactus story?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
I would love to see an ending.
Well, that's different because Byrne had issues with Marvel editorial, and that's why it was never resolved.
John Byrne had issues with people. Get out.
I know, right? Exactly.
Who'd have thunk it?
What a shocker.
But it wasn't like a conscious decision.
Exclamation point.
It wasn't a conscious decision to leave it unresolved. That had more to do on the editorial side.
Yes.
And
Like Mark Waid and Ron Garney on Captain America when probably a lot of comics then. Heroes Reborn go, sorry, Avengers, Cap, no more. Can't play with those toys. Fantastic Four, nope. They gave it to the Image Crew.
I think Marvel realized that as a mistake and wanted to end it and put it behind them as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Because at that time, it was the beginnings of rumblings within the Jack Kirby family about the rights to characters like Captain America. All of that started around that time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on that regard.
Dick Cancel is I Married Dora. That's hard.
You know what? A question just popped to mind in regards to all this continuity with Marvel and DC. Is it fair to say that Marvel was always more serialized and stayed in continuity more than DC? Like I remember, I remember as a kid, like every issue of the DC, whether it was Superman, Batman, whatever, it was a different thing every week. There was nothing.
And they were all self-contained stories. Yeah,
right. They were all done in one. Whereas Marvel, from week to week, the stories continued. They spilled into one another and they related.
Right. Yeah, like Mike said, Marvel from day one was always trying to be a world-building universe.
Right.
DC really didn't try until the mid-'70s, and then by '84 was when Crisis came out. They tried to make their whole convoluted universe history into one coherent storyline, which just caused more problems than it solved.
Yeah, because it wasn't. DC tried to say that it was confusing the readers. No, it really wasn't.
It was confusing the writers.
Yeah.
It was confusing the writers.
That's exactly it.
Black Canary. She jumped from one Earth to the other Earth. She
Yeah.
had mom who was Black Canary. She didn't have a mom who was Black Canary. That was confusing.
So maybe that's it. Maybe because I was growing up, I was always a Marvel guy, and I did not get into DC until much later on, where I just wanted as many comics in my face as I could find. But as a kid, I grew up on Marvel, and their fiction was serialized, so it continued. They created a history, so it felt like a novel, or it was like this. It was like reading modern mythology.
Yes. Yeah. And then also they had one and done stories, so you could pluck an issue out, and you wouldn't really miss it too much.
Right. Yeah, usually they would do those like assistant editors month, where it was an excuse to just do some kind of crazy. Story. It was completely out of control.
Snowbound issue.
That happened in Spidey number 43.
Oh my God, the Snowbound issue of Alpha Flight. I was so mad at that comic.
Really? See, I loved it.
Some
loved
people
it.
Did, but I was like, they paid this motherfucker to do nothing?
But see, I thought it was very experimental. I thought it was very, I loved it. I thought it was a terrific issue. I thought it was...
I never read it.
It's the whole issue is white.
When I thought that he got paid for those blank pages.
The whole issue is blank pages, except for the last page or two, right?
Yeah, the first page and first page and a half, and then the last page.
Right, and then the rest of the comic, it was 20 pages of just word balloons.
Yeah,
and white
and sound effects.
Yeah,
right.
her in the snowstorm, which I thought worked. I thought it was terrific. I had no problem with it. Because it was characterization.
That sounds actually pretty good.
It actually was characterization. It was characterization about you got to know the character more in this situation. Yes, it was all blank pages.
Those blank pages are a great experiment for an artist.
Yes, he experimented. He tried something different. He was pushing the boundaries.
Not Byrne. It's a great experiment for another artist to try and draw in what happened.
No, you don't need to know what happened in the snowstorm because it's a fucking snowstorm. She's just trying to survive, which is what he showed. And I thought it was a terrific issue.
There really was more in that.
You notice nobody ever did that shit again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can't really do it.
Yeah, see, once you do it once...
They could have done Blackout. It was 24 pages of Blackout.
Well, Byrne kind of did that in FF with She-Hulk later on with a Blackout issue, but only Byrne could get away with it. No one else could have gotten away with it at that point in the 80s.
That's true. He had enough props that he could pull off something like that.
Exactly. And I think if you did it again, any other artist, it would feel derivative, unoriginal. So what's the point of doing it?
Right.
Any
Like, I swear to
memorable?
God, I don't know how many times I've been reading the comic and going, this is Frank Miller's Born Again. Why? What's the matter with you? Why are you rewriting this thing again?
Mm-hmm. There's one of my favorite comics that I always bring up whenever people broach the subject of comics that had an emotional impact on you. Was an Assistant Editor's Month issue of Spider-Man, and it was the kid who collects Spider-Man. It was the first comic. It was the first comic ever that actually brought a tear to my eye.
That was a brilliant story. That was fucking
amazing,
great. Yes,
an amazing story.
They did something similar in the Fantastic Four around that time during Byrne's run, where some kid had idolized the Human Torch to the point where he actually set himself on fire.
Oh wow!
That was an editorial assistant month. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, that Assistant Editor's Month. I used to love those issues. I looked forward to them.
I know, they were a lot of fun.
Huh?
I like when Superman adopted Jimmy Olsen, but they had him pretend he was a bad guy, so Jimmy wanted us to adopt his father.
Hey, that actually reminds me. I think the issues of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, in which Don Rickles appeared, are about to go up in value now.
Did Don Rickles have his own comic at one point?
I think so.
No, Don Rickles.
I know Jerry Lewis did.
Jerry Lewis and Bob Hope had their own comics. Don Rickles never had his own comic. He was only in 2 issues of Jimmy Olsen, like Mike said, but he never had his own comic run. It was Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, and then Jerry Lewis and Bob Hope. But
and
really,
some of those early issues of Jerry Lewis have Neil Adams covers on it.
Yeah. Neil Adams started at Archie, actually. And
but Jerry Lewis wasn't an Archie comic. That was a DC comic.
No, but he started at Archie and then went on to like Jerry Lewis.
Oh, okay.
And did covers and then started doing interiors. But yeah, I can't see those 2 Jimmy Olsen, Don Rickles issues going up in value. Really? Because he died this week?
Possibly.
Quite
possible.
Well, that's how it goes with anybody, right? Anytime some entertainer or somebody famous passes away, all their stuff jumps through the roof.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ghoulish if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of like picking the bone. It's kind of like picking the corpse's bones, you know.
Yeah,
Watch the entire run of Jerry Lewis's DC comic go up in value once he passes. Watch.
Oh yeah, and they'll be having movie marathons to get people back into the theaters to see the Nutty Professor or whatever.
I've been watching Don Rickles on YouTube. You know, a lot of old stuff. But I mean, I wouldn't have watched it if you didn't know.
One of my favorite Don Rickles appearances was in the horror/comedy Innocent Blood. Anybody remember that film?
No.
With
no.
I'm forgetting the actress name. It's the actress. The actress who starred. It was a vampire movie, and it was a comedy. And it didn't really, it took itself seriously as a horror movie. It had a lot of comedy undertones.
John Landis directed it.
Yes, that's right. It was the girl who starred in The Femme Nikita.
Okay.
And Robert Loggia.
Yes,
Don
I've heard of that one.
had a big role in it too.
What is this, mid to late 90s?
Was she a gangster? Was she a gangster?
Robert Loggia, yes. He was a gangster.
No.
He was a head of
vampire with a thirst for bad guys. When she falls to properly dispose of one of the victims of violent mob boss, she fights her more than she can.
Jeez, the girl who played La Femme Nikita in the TV series, she was a skank.
Did you guys date?
Petra Wilson, she just skanked.
Wow, they went right through the Italian Hollywood Rolodeck. It's got Chaz Palminteri, Anthony Paglia, Robert Loggia, Let's see what I recognize.
There's no Irishman in it.
Lewis was not.
Because you can't get blood from the potato.
Oh,
Nobody
geez.
cares about the Irish.
Oh, that's terrible.
No blood from the potato.
Am I lying? Am I lying?
You know, they made 2 shows of Fluff and Makita.
Yeah.
See that?
What, 2 series?
Yeah, the new one was with the Asian chick. What's her name?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
That's right. That's right. You know, you after all this talk about continuity, I'm starting to rethink my position. I think that I kind of might be 50-50, like, because we mentioned those assistant editors month issues, and they were completely self-contained. But then again,
They
Peter
were
Parker
dirty.
still acts like Peter Parker, and what created him was still part of that story. So that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? In a way.
Anybody got any favorite
Yeah,
Marvel
that's true.
and DC pairings? Any books that joined two
You mean like
characters or 2 groups of characters, one from
Like
Marvel,
shipping?
one from DC? Huh?
shipping?
shipping.
Like
Right.
shipping?
You know,
Shippers.
shippers. You know, when they
Shippers.
I
combine
spent 10 hours a day making sure everybody was my ships.
Yeah, it's like when people on Tumblr create Arrow and Felicity
right.
relationships.
Oh, yeah.
That's shipping.
Yeah, but the Marvel
That is not
and
shit,
DC
Gary.
for a time actually did it for a little while with various books. Anybody have any favorites?
I
on
don't
them?
remember any of that. I remember the Avengers JL.
That's what I was going to mention.
And
I
I
think
remember
that's
the
it.
what if that thing that they amalgam when they shove 2 characters together.
Yeah, I hated that shit.
And Wolverine and Batman,
Yeah, it made him Dark Claw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
shit
yeah.
sucked. That shit
No.
sucked.
No. I'm talking about the actual characters. And of course, not fitting into continuity, of course, but you know,
Well,
2
Batman
characters.
and Robin.
Mm.
Batman and Robin and Captain Bucky. John Byrne did that. I love it.
Oh yeah, that one was okay. That one was okay. But
Oh, I didn't remember
What did you say?
the ones that
Why can't you let me have anything?
the ones that have the fondest memories for me are the first Superman versus Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
which was by
Yeah, I
Ross
couldn't even take
Andrews.
that serious. I couldn't even take that serious.
Love that. That is an
That was
awesome.
good. That was very
That's
good.
awesome.
Wasn't that the giant size format?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a tabloid format.
Treasury.
Batman versus the Hulk.
Treasury.
Oh, God.
Batman versus the Hulk. I love that one.
What are you going to do? What Hulk would eat his batarangs. What?
No, Batman won that fight.
You see, I hated that because it
I
was
know.
stupid. I hated that. Even though I loved Jose Garcia Lopez artwork, the story itself was stupid. Where it's like
He's also
Batman,
a super nice guy, by the way.
Batman kicked
Yeah.
the Hulk in
I
the.
asked him no one time in a comic. He never responded.
I mean,
And-
Batman kicks the Hulk in the solar plexus. Oh, come on, to make him breathe
Not-
Oh,
gas.
that's right. That's right. I remember it now. That's right.
Yeah.
That's gay. That's totally gay.
You know, when I saw that, I said, like, what is this? This isn't, like, real. It's like a fake comic.
And
I mean, Jose Garcia
also have-
Lopez artwork is amazing, but the story sucked.
And
Yeah,
I
they were silly.
also have fond memories of the X-Men and the New Teen Titans. Walt Simon.
Yeah, that was.
Oh,
That
yes,
was a
yes,
fucking-
that was. You know what? I'll pick that one over the JLA and Avengers. You're
Yes.
right.
Yes, I would.
Out of all the out of all the crossovers, that's the best one out of the bunch.
I remember
really
that,
is.
that one. People were super excited about that crossover when it was announced that it was coming out.
It was like, you know, those 2 teams were huge. I don't think any of the young nerds could even contemplate how big those comics were.
That was a big deal. Yeah, that was a big deal.
It was.
You know, wasn't there talk many years ago when Marvel and DC were struggling financially, them merging and becoming one company?
Oh, no, there was
Yes, there was talk about that.
okay.
Yes. Yes, actually, DC
A
sales were
long time ago.
no.
Yeah.
DC sales were so bad before the Dark Knight Returns that
Mhm.
DC actually went to Marvel and said, "Would you like to put out books on our characters?" And for some reason, Marvel never said, "Okay, we will," and the whole deal fell through. And then Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns made
Put them back.
DC successful. But before that, DC sales were so bad that they thought Marvel might actually help them. And
I remember Batman
I
was
wish
in
that
danger.
deal went through.
I remember Batman was in danger of being canceled until
Yeah.
Frank Miller's Dark Knight brought it
Exactly.
back.
It was.
They were going to
Yeah.
cancel it.
Yeah, they were.
DC was ready to cancel Detective Comics in the late 70s
Mhm,
because
mhm.
sales were so bad. But it was Englehart and Rogers and Austin's interpretation of Batman that literally saved that comic.
God bless Marshall Rogers.
Exactly, but you're talking about a book that was like 40 years old on the
Yeah.
verge of being canceled because of low sales, because no one gave a shit about Batman. Even with
Because
Neil
it was-
Adams,
it-
even with Jim Aparo, no one gave a shit about Batman until Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns
Yeah.
in
Jim
86.
Aparo was one of the greatest Batman artists ever.
Exactly, but his
It was the stories. It was the stories. Batman was fighting Calendar King, Condiment King. You know, he was fighting these stupid ass characters. I remember.
yeah, but nobody, as much as people love Jim Aparo, nobody gave a shit about Batman itself until Frank Miller said,
Mhm.
"Here's what Batman will
Yeah, he
evolve
turned
to
he made Batman
in the
into
future."
Clint Eastwood.
Exactly,
He made Batman Clint Eastwood and brought that character back from the brink of extinction.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
He got paid $1 million an issue in upfront page rent.
Wow.
For what?
Wow.
For Dark Knight or for
But Dark
Batman
Knight,
Year
yeah.
One?
No, for Dark Knight.
Wow. Was it his
Wow.
Daredevils? Were they just crazy about his Daredevil numbers?
Yeah, they were actually.
Or was it Wolverine miniseries?
Well, it was more Daredevil, I think.
Okay.
Probably all of the above, because up until he was just hitting him out the park from Daredevil on. Whatever he got
Yeah.
a hold of became a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah,
Whenever he got a hold of something back
I don't
then,
remember him getting a hold of too many things. He did Daredevil, the Wolverine miniseries. What else did he do?
didn't he? Oh no, he didn't do the Wolverine Shadowcat thing, right? That was somebody else.
no,
Yeah,
that wasn't him. No, but during his peak in the 80s, it was Daredevil, Batman,
Well,
The Wolverine.
the Wolverine miniseries, and
He did a
Ronin.
couple of,
Ronin,
things for
Ronin,
Fanfare.
but don't forget, Ronin was a very
And Ronin.
successful.
Oh, right, Ronin. That's right. That was
Ronin was huge. You're talking about an original character owned by DC as a property coming out as a miniseries by the hottest artist in the business, and it was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil and Wolverine helped Frank Miller do Ronin at DC.
Right.
Ronin helped Frank Miller get Dark Knight.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. But if it wasn't for
And
the
then-
success of Ronin, there would never be a Dark Knight.
Right.
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 But that's all due to Miller's, genius at the time. His ability to, just the way he wrote, he brought that kind of dark, pulpy vibe to comics that didn't exist outside in other comics.
Hey, anybody remember Frank Miller's acting debut?
RoboCop 2.
No.
That's right.
RoboCop
In what?
2. RoboCop 2.
That's right. That's right.
He wrote
He got blown up in the trailer.
Right.
RoboCop 2, and I'm sorry to say, I thought it was a piece of shit.
It wasn't. You know what? He thought the same thing. wasn't RoboCop 2 what turns him away from Hollywood for years to come?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
originally his script was much darker. It featured a segment that he really loved where I forget the RoboCop's real name, Frank Murphy, something like that.
Yeah.
Where the character goes and he visits his own grave, and there's this whole sequence where he's reliving, he's flashing back to his life, and they cut that out.
That would have been nice.
They diluted the little kid gangster character that was in the movie was written much darker and much more violent in Miller's script. And basically they chopped up his script and they edited it so, viciously that it turned him away from Hollywood for years. I don't know that he ever went back for a long time. And
he did RoboCop 3.
Rodriguez approached him
for Sin City.
He did RoboCop 3 as a movie. He wrote the screenplay for RoboCop 3, which bombed. Yes, it bombed, and people hated it.
RoboCop 2. RoboCop 3 stunk.
So maybe, you know what? Maybe it was 3 that drove him away. But I remember, I swear, I remember reading something about that he got totally turned off to Hollywood after he experienced the way that, because of course, nobody was editing him like that in comics.
If anybody noticed, and if you blink, you'll miss it. There's a scene in RoboCop 2 where the scientists at OCP are looking over visual files of criminals, of felons that they could use for their own RoboCop program. They use the photographs of comic book writers and artists.
Yes.
You saw pictures of Will Eisner there. Spain was there. There were several other people. I think Mike Kaluta might have been there.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, there's all these artists.
I wanted to mention something. We were talking about when DC was in the verge of collapse and Batman was going to be canceled.
Yeah.
I remember one of the funniest, to this day, for some reason, it's a series that I couldn't stand. I think I had 1 or 2 issues of it and they were given to me by somebody, but it was Dazzler. And I'll never forget the last issue of Dazzler had the best tagline above the logo. It said, "Because you demanded it." The last issue of Dazzler.
That was good.
Shit.
I remember. I'll never forget. I thought that was I was like, wow. Even they, just put it out there on Front Street. Like, yeah, this comic sucked and you hated it.
Yeah, Marvel did that a lot in the 80s. Like when US 1 or all those shitty merchandise comics that they bought rights to.
Like Shogun and G.I. Joe?
Yeah. Like even,
not all of them were shitty.
Well, a lot of them were. But even like something like, I think Starbrand, the last issue.
Oh, the New Universe. Oh my God, those were awesome.
But the last issue said something like 36th issue out of a 36-issue limited series.
That was Justice.
Yeah, Justice. They knew that they fucked up, and they were willing to make a joke out of it, which showed Marvel to be a little bit more human,
more personable.
Yeah.
More personable than
like
DC. Yeah.
Like Starbrand was Jim Shooter's take on Green Lantern.
Yes.
Awful.
Dr. Zero, I thought was going to be something, and it turned out to be nothing. He was supposed to be pretending to be a superhero in disguise.
You know what was another great moment in comic history? When they had you call the number to decide whether Robin would live or die in Death in the Family.
Oh, yeah.
17 times.
And the number of calls DC received for Robin to die was overwhelmingly higher than the ones to keep him alive.
That's because it was one guy boosting those calls up.
Me.
I called once, and I wanted Jason Todd to die.
That's right, it was Jason Todd. Right.
It was the Dr. Zero book, because I remember the art being really good.
Yeah, Dr. Zero was Dennis Cowan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even though it wasn't part of the New Universe line, Strike Force Moratori.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Was
I
fucking
thought that was
great.
kind of interesting.
Will Portacio.
Yeah, that was fucking great.
They were supposed to get a TV series.
Really? I never knew
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it was. I think Fox was interested in doing something.
Are there any comics out nowadays that you guys think still have the original spirit of comics, which was comics were always like a metaphor for something bigger. The hero and the plot in question was like addressing some sort of topic, whether it was anti-drugs or anti-war or child abuse, or you know what I mean, something really like a poignant topic. Is there anything else? Is there anything like
nowadays?
That?
I think Invincible comes close.
Yeah, Mike, you go.
I think Invincible comes close.
Has anybody ever read The Tale of One Bad Rat by Brian Talbot?
Never heard.
Oh fuck yeah, that was out in the late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite miniseries I think ever written. I mean, it was like nothing I had ever read before because it was non-superheroes, and I only read it because I think Brian Talbot used to be on Swamp Thing or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel an issue or two. Yeah.
I think that's what made me check it out, and I was hooked because of the clean artwork and the level of detail. And as we mentioned before, the story hooked me in, and the whole thing was about the young blonde girl. You know, she was from an abusive home. The father molested her, and she was mentally and physically beaten. So she ran away from home. It took place in England, and it was a really, really powerful. It was a really powerful, moving comic. I mean, it was incredible use of medium.
The book like that comes closest for me is Watchmen.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe you're right.
You know, so much so that I hated the film.
Mm-hmm.
The film was way too long. I think The Watchmen would have fared better as a serialized TV series.
Everybody says so.
I agree with you, Mike, but what we got in a 2-hour movie, I personally...
it was longer than 2 hours.
2.5? I personally liked it. I thought they did a good enough adaptation in 2.5 hours to...
Did you ever see the director's cut?
No, I'm not.
The director's cut is even closer to the series than the theatrical release. I think it's like 3.5 hours. Oh yeah, first of all, it's way longer. I'm gonna have to Google it and find out. But there was a lot of great stuff that got that was taken right out of the comic series. I mean, just plucked right off the pages. There was a scene. Who was the retired hero that ends up getting beaten to death by the gang, and they beat him with his own Nighthawk? That whole scene was in there in the director's cut. So there were a lot of moments from Watchmen that they just took out of the theatrical release that I thought really added to the overall piece.
I thought I remember seeing that in the regular theatrical release.
I think they clipped it for the theatrical release. It only showed you like maybe 30 seconds of it.
I'm surprised, Mike, that you didn't like it. Because I thought for 2 hours they did as good a job as they could have.
It was very faithful, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too for 2 hours.
Yeah, I thought it was way too long.
And of course, Jack Euro Haley killed it as Rorschach.
Yeah.
I mean,
would I have liked it on HBO? Yeah, I agree with you. Would I have liked it as a 12-hour miniseries? Yes. But I only got 2 hours? I thought it was fine for 2 hours.
Yeah, you know, one thing that I learned from reading about Louis B. Mayer, who was the head of MGM for decades, he used to have this rule where he would be in the theater. He always used to say, the moment my ass starts to squirm in the seat, the movie is over.
Watchmen director's cut is 3 hours and 35 minutes.
There you
go. I never saw that.
Yeah, you could find it. Well, you could find it now, probably online anywhere, I'm sure.
I bet Kareem's seen it.
Yeah, our friend Kareem has seen everything.
The real reason movies aren't 3 hours is just because they can't show them as many times in a day. So they cut,
Yeah.
A 2 hour movie.
Yeah.
A 2 hour movie is preferable because you can have show it more times throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
true.
get it.
That's the only real reason. Otherwise, there'd be 3 and 4 hour movie. Well, back in the days, they used to have intermissions, like at a play.
Yep.
Because I went to go see. I was taken on a school trip to see Oliver Twist in junior high school, and the movie was like
Wow.
3 hours. The movie was like 3 hours. We thought we'd never make it through the movie, and they had an intermission after like an hour and 15 minutes or something like that.
See, what movies did I see that had intermissions in the middle of it? The Godfather,
Godfather, 2001,
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Barry Lyndon.
I didn't see that one.
You never saw Barry Lyndon by Kubrick?
No, I never saw Barry Lyndon. The Ten Commandments.
Fucking
with Charlton
awesome.
Heston and
Yes,
Neil Brenner, that
Ten
was
Commandments. Yeah.
I wonder if they'll start doing that again.
Ben-Hur?
Because theaters
Ben-Hur.
are so expensive now.
Mm.
You know, movies are so expensive now. A person with 2 kids, and if the two parents and 2 kids go, they'll end up spending $80 to $100 just to go see a movie, and that's without.
Can you imagine they start doing intermissions again? You know, where everybody like starts to file around the candy counter for popcorn and stuff, and after 15 minutes, the lights start to flicker.
Yeah, they make a shitload of. They make a ton of money on concession.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I don't see them ever doing an intermission again.
Yeah, but like the Alamo Draft House, that kind of a theater where they have waiter service, and they want to keep you there ordering, so they
Exactly.
don't order another.
Exactly. So intermission would cut into their profits.
Cut into whose profits? The theater?
The theaters, yes.
Why?
But
Well,
wouldn't it add to their profits because then
Yeah.
people get time to
No,
go
I
use the
think
back?
I think most people might go to the men's room, ladies' room,
Right. Mm-hmm.
go
And then they
outside
probably
for a
get something-
smoke.
and they probably get something else to snack on for the other
No,
half.
but they might go
yeah,
outside
you
for a
order, you
smoke.
get your order in, say, give me a pretzel and a knish.
I think most people might go
If you can
outside for a
find the
smoke.
condition in a movie theater anymore.
People might go outside for a smoke or for texting,
Mm-hmm.
and they wouldn't want to be inside for a concession.
It's like, oh, the lights are flickering, the movie's about to start again.
Yeah, I think trying to keep people inside the theater with
Oh, if the movie is compelling enough, they'll stay. They'll stay
Yes.
and stick around for it.
yes,
That's true. And also,
You know,
if people paid for the movie, they're not going to leave without seeing the ending, without seeing the other half.
Yeah. And the cost of the concessions is not going to deter them. Even
Right.
though with a bucket of popcorn, it costs us like eight or $9. It costs the movie theater 99 cents per bucket.
Yeah, if that.
yeah. But if you have an intermission and most people are outside smoking or on their phones, you're losing that concession. You know, while if you have a 3.5 hour movie straight through with waiter and waitress
Oh,
serving,
and here's another-
you might
here's
make
another
more
one.
money. You might make more money that way.
Here's another
that's
movie
true,
that had
too.
an intermission. It's the last movie I saw that had an intermission. The
Uh-huh.
Hateful Eight.
Oh, did it really?
Yes, it did.
Yes.
Well, that
Yes,
movie
it
was,
did.
Well, that
Yes.
movie was like 8 hours long anyway.
And it was on a 70mm screen, too.
Mm-hmm.
Was,
Boy, was that movie unnecessarily long. Woo.
yes, but see, that's Quentin Tarantino is a brand. He could get away with that.
Mhm.
Standard,
But it was really self-indulgent though. It was
Yes,
like probably his
but
most self-indulgent
a standard 3.5 hour movie could
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Cannot
I
do
didn't
what
know
he
if
did.
any Colt 45 bullets that, when fired, can blow a man's head clean off of his body.
Listen, there was a 30-second scene where you just watched the guy take off his gloves. I was like, why am I watching this? Literally, the guy gets out of a stagecoach just before he walks into that shack where everything takes place. And you're sitting there watching him, and he's taking off his gloves one finger at a time. He plucks them, then pulls the glove off, then goes to the other glove, plucks each finger slowly,
I
and
remember
pulls
that.
it,
yes.
and then pulls. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It's indulgent Quentin Tarantino.
Chain.
I have no idea. I think that glove company paid him a shitload of money to show those fucking gloves
That
off.
might be it. I think about that all the time now. There's like, we're not watching commercials anymore.
Product endorsements.
Product placement in movies and TV is gonna be all over the place.
Yeah, that was crazy. I'm surprised I didn't see more product placement in something like Ghost in the Shell, where there were holographic ads all over the movie. Which is actually not a bad movie.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. What'd you think? I haven't seen it yet. What'd you think of it?
First of all, visually, it's incredible. It's absolutely stunning visually. Like they put all the thought and effort into that aspect of the movie. But in terms of story content and acting and emotional impact, it's really barren. It's like,
see, I felt the same way about the anime, and people give it crap for it. But
the anime is too much talking. The soul and cyber and the goat.
As much as I liked the anime because of the visual look to it, I thought the story was pretty boring.
That's the same way. The movie's the same thing. It looks incredible. The action sequences in the movie are plucked almost directly out of the anime. Like, they really did a great job of recreating some of these moments.
All I remember about the anime is like the invisible guy in the puddle.
Yes, that scene is they did that scene perfectly. It looks just like it.
That guy was all the movies.
Every time the movie starts to approach anything that looks like emotional depth, it runs away from it in seconds. It just flees and runs to a car chase or a fight or something.
Okay, the main question is, can I masturbate to Scarlett Johansson?
Can you what?
Masturbate to Scarlett Johansson.
Well, you can masturbate to anybody you want there, pal.
I can do it.
No comment.
I need more material for my spank bank. How's that?
You might find some in that movie because she is wearing that skin tight white latex outfit.
Dirty.
If he runs the flying nun, I'm good.
Dirty.
The one thing that bothers me about that, why can't Marvel get on board with a Black Widow solo film?
Exactly.
No idea.
Well,
exactly.
People have been asking that for years.
Because I think they're not going to get the people in the seats the way they would with a male guy. I'm sorry. It's just not there.
I don't know.
Think about Black Widow.
But is that true? Because Angelina Jolie has headlined movies and she fills seats.
Yeah, remember Salt?
Yeah. Salt.
Remember about an action movie, not about a movie.
Salt was an action movie.
But if you look at Black Widow's sales in comics, it's dismal.
No, but that's totally different. Scarlett Johansson brings in an audience that doesn't collect comics.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think she. The thing is, I don't think she does bring in that thing.
She also just might be one of those characters that only works in small doses.
That's what I think.
Yes, I think so too.
With the exception of Ghost in the Shell, she hasn't been given an opportunity to.
Well, she was in Lucy.
Lucy was a huge hit.
Yeah,
Lucy was a big hit.
Yeah, it was.
So I think a Scarlett Johansson Black Widow movie would have been successful. I mean,
you get the right writers and directors behind it. You know, like the Russo brothers on Winter Soldier.
Oh, those guys are amazing.
Yeah, but you say that about any character. You say that about Forbes, man. But the thing is,
speaking of female characters, I'm very psyched that Joss Whedon is going to do the Batgirl movie.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I'm psyched, but with reservations, because Joss Whedon movies always seem to have an agenda behind the movie itself.
Really?
In regards to, what do you mean, like an agenda, like to sell stuff?
An agenda, like he's going to be like a pro-feminist, anti-man.
I don't think he's anti-man.
I think with Dollhouse,
he just writes women really well, but I never saw.
He does.
He
writes women well with but as a subtraction to man, as opposed to just adding a strong woman to a male agenda.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong.
I don't think so. Not from Whedon. I see that in a lot. I think I see that in most other movies, but not in a Whedon film. I think he makes the men and women equally interesting. Like Angel wasn't a wimpy character in the Buffy. He was, he was her boyfriend, and then he became a villain, and he did all sorts of different things with him. Spike was a great character, but Spike, I was going to mention, is a character like Scarlet Witch, where you can't watch them all the time. You can only you can only have them in
more like they shot on Black Widow. It's not going to work.
Right. I think you demystified her.
But even with Dollhouse, don't you think he?
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, Dollhouse was really good, but I think he pumped up Dollhouse at the expense of making men inferior.
Really, I didn't get that at all.
I never got that from Dollhouse.
Really?
I mean, I have to.
The Avengers.
The tech guy, the
Well,
Russian
the tech
guy,
guy
the Russian guy were kind of lesser.
The tech guy was basically Wash from Firefly. He was like the same type of character.
But he was a secondary character.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's the name was the star? You're gonna get that.
Yeah, like Eliza Dushku.
Yeah.
But he's as far as a male creator taking on a female character, like you couldn't ask for anyone better. I feel to take on Batgirl, because otherwise I'm not interested in Batgirl.
Exactly. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. The most interesting thing Batgirl ever did was get shot by the Joker.
Which is true. Yes, that is true.
That's all anybody ever mentions when you mention Batgirl. Just like, oh yeah, remember when she got shot by the Joker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that is
and
true.
Then when she became Oracle, that was amazing. The way they cheesed that, then boom, Birds of Prey. Awesome.
Yeah, you're lying through your teeth.
I collected every issue from Birds of Prey.
Did you?
And she became Oracle during Suicide Squad.
Right. Birds of Prey was her and Black Canary. It was right after Black Canary got all effed up in the Green Arrow Lone War Hunters, and it was two women themselves back together. Really good comic. One of the only female comic titles I ever was totally sucked into. Oh, no, wait, I'm wrong about that. One of the few, I have to say, not only. One of the few female was when Brian Azzarello did his run on Wonder Woman. For me, that was one of the most amazing, probably the best storyline I've ever read in Wonder Woman ever. It's like 1 o'clock now, guys. You want to keep going, or? Oh crap! Is it? Yeah. Oh my god. And there's 2 shows I want to do. One is Wonder Woman before the movie comes out. We all talking as guys talking about comics, how we feel about her. But we also want to talk about later on, what comic characters, female comic characters, or that you collected ever. If you gave me top 10 male heroes, I could probably rack them out. But women, I got about 4. Yeah, we should definitely. I had no idea we had run so long. We should definitely call it a night. I'm definitely.
Yeah, we're at 3 hours 28 minutes.
You definitely got to chop.
Well, we started late. We started about 9:20.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to chop that one up a bit.
No.
It was a good one though.
It was. I thought it was pretty good tonight.
Yeah. It was long.
It was just interesting. I didn't think it was long. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, we did. We covered some good stuff.
Yeah, we'll let Pat come up with topics.
Yeah, that seems to work best.
Pat has nothing else to do with his life. Let him come up with topics.
About Flying Nun and Gary's podcast.
I wanna just see Scarlett Johansson in Black Widow outfits.
I saw some
that.
You know how to use
Yeah, I
Photoshop.
like that. You don't have to. You just don't have to like that.
Dirty.
All right, guys. It's 1 o'clock. Time to call it a night.
Yeah, I gotta work on Saturday. So does Mike.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I'll see you when I see you. I'll hear you when I hear you.
All right,
Okay.
Pat.
Talk to you
I'll
later.
talk to you later in the week, and I just want you to know that you suck.
Harry, you've been talking to my teachers?
Exactly. I was talking to your mom. All right.
All right.
I'm gonna try to have this up by Sunday.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Pat,
Have a good night,
Pat,
gentlemen.
you too.
Laters.
Mike, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a good night.
All right. You too, dude.
Peace.